You said 1:30.
Well, what I said, what I meant.
Anyway, we're all here now.
I resemble every morning.
Judge Ashcroft run a little late too, but, we're all good, so, I think we got the DA waiting on us here a little bit, but.
Well, I'm not gonna
start
start
picking.
time, so.
Tricia, I met with the JPs, when we met Thursday, Friday, or last week. And kind of went over some of their stuff they wanted to visit about, but, Tricia's got a couple of things you want to kind of explain where you are.
Yes, I do. In the last 3 years, we've had increase in dues, which actually, that's the JCPA, it's Justice of the Peace and Constable, but it supplements the training at the seminars and stuff, and also the training conference. So those have gone up, but I don't think they're going up as much as we were afraid. They were, right now, they're like 35 and 40, but they may go up to 60 or 75 because, and also the registration and training costs with the Justice Court Training Center. That registration fee has gone from $50 to just, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. I think we can look back, but it's $50. Then it went up to $100 for a couple of years, and then this year went up to $150 per person. So that's a triple there. So I've added a little bit more on the mileage, meals and lodging, and on the education training conference. I added a couple $100 there, and I tried to offset that by decreasing my inquest budget by a couple $100. I never used all that money. I know I could leave it there, but I'd rather do that as a standby. And like this time, I'm having to take out of my inquest to send one of my clerks to the training conference that's coming up at the end of this month. And I added a little $50 increase on the dues. I tried to keep it down, but then I guess I also tried to offset it a little bit with that inquest travel.
Yeah,
So,
just for the.
Now, what is inquest travel?
That's us going out. There's just extra pay for us going out on all the deaths that we go out and.
I know Smack does charges or anything.
And I don't charge that much, and I tell you why, the reason I do it, and I told the people there at the ER, and see, Forney and Kaufman are the only ones that have medical facilities. And I'm right there, and if I'm in town, I had told them just to go ahead and call me. I've told Forney, please want me to do that, rather than call another JP out to come from someplace else. If I'm in town, I don't mind doing it. I live, as the crow flies, about a mile from the ER. So my my inquest travel is, not as much as maybe some of the others that have further to drive.
What we did on that a few years ago is,
That's been there for a couple of
on
years.
weekends or holidays, they cover for each other. And so if she was in Forney and Maybank had an inquest call, they were.
Like I had the drowning down there at the country club, and I had to go down there on Sunday.
So we started reimbursing them if it's in their precinct, they don't, it's covered by it, right?
But, I don't turn in, except for the long distance one.
Well, basically, you're only raising it $450, and you're giving us 2 of it back. And
So
then-
really,
so it's
just
$250.
Yeah, so I did the best I could that way, so.
That makes it pretty good to me.
And I just want y'all to understand that we cover, like, Judge Barton got a good deal on vacation, so she took it, and we switched weeks, and we cover for each other all the time, so we go all over the county. And so it's,
We should help each other.
so, it's okay,
All right, anybody have anything else from the judge?
No questions? Okay.
The JPs may come back to us later on as a group when they're together, when we go a little deeper into the process about some things they discussed with me the other day. And it's primarily talking about their inquest and the administration and things that they do, that they share, and just some ideas they have about that. So we'll probably try to get them all at one time. Maybe.
There are 2 things I want to address that may affect the budget. We talked a little bit about that on Friday. To give an example, myself, I know a couple other judges have got problems with some of the funeral homes refusing to come and pick up dead bodies. I had a 16-year-old suicide victim in Forney one Wednesday morning, and it took me 2.5 hours to finally, and then with Judge Wood's help, I was able to get one of the funeral homes on board. Because you can't, families are in there grieving, and that their, daughter was upstairs dead, and you just have to get those bodies picked up. The body starts deteriorating the moment it dies, so you can't just leave a body just laying there.
Especially in
And
that
so-
situation.
Yes, and exactly.
Yeah, that
And
was
every,
terrible. I know that.
and the thing about it is, I want us to try and get we want another choice. And there is a facility in Mesquite that can do transporting and everything like, maybe not necessarily for like suicides and homicides, but like for natural deaths. Because sometimes they won't come pick them up because they say they're not doing the service, and I tell them that's not right. Doesn't matter whether this county pays you. I don't know if there's a contract in place, if there needs to be a contract in place. But if they're gonna wanna be, that's part of their duties, and they agree to pick up bodies for the county and take them and store them until another funeral home picks them up, or whatever. We just need to have some options, and there's, like I said, there's that place in Mesquite that does the whole 9 yards. They can store bodies and but it may not be for for a homicide, or they may be do for suicide, but for something pending criminal action, the DA's office may want to stick with the ME's office in Dallas because of their track record as
Yeah,
far
and
as.
I know Judge Wiley's here, and I know she and the sheriff's office have strong feelings about that.
We do. Yeah, but for natural deaths and maybe like a suicide or something, we need,
And this-
just.
This same company would do autopsies?
Yeah, they do autopsies.
You have to be careful though. Sometimes it depends on, on natural. If you have a suspicious thing, you're
Yeah,
really
you could have
setting,
a poison
excuse me,
looks
you're setting up your witness. And you wanna have a,
That's right.
These are pathologists that work for the ME's office in Dallas County and Tarrant County, and they have their own business.
I understand.
So, but anyway, I understand for criminal offenses, like for homicide, it may not, but
But y'all would be the ones to make that determination.
yeah, we
That's
make
at
the
at
determination,
scene.
right, if they need an autopsy or not.
Right.
And some are
Natural
demanded,
causes
I
pretty
don't know.
Like the one in Mesquite though, didn't you have only problem you had was something about the weekend? Didn't you tell me?
Well, that's why,
Yeah.
that was like, one of the JPs wanted to have them available on weekends, but they're too expensive, but not for that, for 24/7.
Right.
The company you're talking
But really,
Yeah,
for
that's already
purposes
on
of that, we just want to make sure we have somebody that can
Emergency.
transport, pick up a body, and maybe hold it until the family decides, because we have had some homeless people that we had bodies, we didn't know what to do with them, and they were natural, and, so we have to end up doing them, with a potter's field.
So what is the process we need to do to give the JPs that authority?
I don't know.
And, I'm sorry, I don't mean to
That's
personally
okay.
judge on your thing.
That's
What, I'm sorry, I'll get up here.
What I understood when the reason Judge Wood was over with me is we had, Judge Smith brought it up on some of the
He's done
occasions.
most of the research on that with this company.
Right, and he's done most of the research and looked into it, and it was honestly sometimes that it's being on call all the time, even when they rotated around, so he was just looking for somebody sometime when they were on call to be able to put that, isn't that what I remember? 'Cause it was-
Yeah.
we were at the meeting, and so it was actually providing that service for somebody else. Now, if you're talking about saving some money and not using Dallas, that's another thing. I just have to say that on a homicide, you want the best person.
Well, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm sure you
But
would.
what percentage of these deaths are homicide?
Not
Versus,
Not many.
Not many.
You know.
We just basically would like to have an option, like for that day, when that little 16-year-old girl, I'd like to be able to, when she was dead, I would like to have had the option to call somebody, say, can you come and pick her up? Because the family, they do not know what funeral home they want to use. They'd only lived in this area a couple of years up north.
Certainly.
So, but that place has, there's very few places I have found out with meeting with emergency management that can actually store bodies, So there's only like maybe 12 to 15 slots in the whole county.
The only thing is, I
funeral
think
homes.
that's y'all's decision about what their responsibilities are. That's not my call. We're talking on the few
that are homicide, we want the EMS in Dallas.
But
That's part of their responsibilities to
So
sign up for
we don't need
JP.
to give them any authority at all? We
No,
just-
we already have the authority to order inquests or have bodies picked up and stored.
Well, but I think if there's homicide,
or something.
your officer's gonna be there saying, oh, this is homicide, they're going where we're
And they're
saying
really
going,
going
and you're
to-
gonna direct that.
Even though it's the JP, the judge's call,
Right.
they'll tell you, that's what Judge Smith said, I can't speak for Judge Ashcroft here, but if the officer said, this doesn't look right,
Right.
then she's gonna go, right, that's gonna be your driving
Right.
force.
If they're not happy, there's something funny, I'll say, let's,
I think
send them to
it's
the
going
ME's office.
What happened the other day with that, this young lady in California that committed suicide, and she was having trouble getting a
Good deal.
funeral.
I was sitting there, and I overheard that, I was here when that was said, and I agree, that's one of those deals where since you have the authority, that you could exercise it.
Right.
Well, she did, but she was having trouble.
Probably having somebody
getting
pick her
funeral
up. I was thinking if we could use this company just to pick up a body and store it if nothing else, but see, we have to, on suicides, we have to send them for an autopsy. So she was going to the ME's office, and I could not find a funeral home to transfer her.
And I think one of the things we're gonna do is get together with funeral homes too.
Well, that's just something I'm gonna throw out there, because that is something that is a concern, granted, it doesn't happen very often, but I think it's good to have a plan in place to address those.
Well, it probably wouldn't hurt the funeral home to know that we do have something else in place.
Well, and I'm
If
thinking,
they want
you
to
know,
act bad for somebody to us.
Well, what'll happen at the funeral home, they may have a funeral going on,
Yeah.
you know, they're all tied up or something, but anyway, it's something I think we can address and work on, but thank you very much.
you're welcome.
And,
If y'all have any questions, just don't hesitate to call me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Y'all take care, all right?
All right, next is the district attorney's office, and we're running
Don't,
a little,
I didn't know anything.
we're running a little behind time, but
I'm
we're,
sorry, was I late?
no, you were on time, we won't go into the office we paid.
No,
It's Jimmy's fault.
Okay,
We're
so
just running a little late. We've
No
been on for a
worries,
long weekend.
no worries.
And we got some kind of racket going down here, I guess, fixing
Big rat.
fixing those sewer traps.
Guys, let's get to the easy part, because, and then we'll talk about it, because it's more money, so that's what people are always concerned about. On our general, items, and I would go from line 10, 31, 02, or 28, office supplies on down, there's no change, okay? So when you look at what you send out and saying, hey, is there anything you wanna change as far as mileage, training, bonds, all that? No. And above the line is, well, salaries, and you say don't ask about individual salary raises. What I'm looking at doing, and I just wanna be honest with you, is we requested on a child abuse unit through a grant. I don't know if we'll get that grant or not. That line item of those numbers, if you would look at each one of those, DA, investigators and secretaries includes the amount for that. But I'm also asking, and this is, so that's one thing, and let you digest that if you have questions about that. So, because your questions I could anticipate would be, well, if you don't get the grant, we don't want to fund that. Okay, that's no banner, that money won't go in there. If you do get the grant, why do we need to fund it? It's because if we don't get it subsequent years, I'd still like the money there. So that money would, ultimately, when I look at, I've done the math a couple of times, when you look at that amount, it would go back, and we wouldn't spend it at the end of the year. So that's just, so you'll know that's where that number comes in. I would also like to add, on top of that, I have written at the bottom, I really would, I thought how best to say it. I'd like to have the flexibility. I know a lot of our salaries are set, but it depends on your attorney. You have different attorneys, and I like a range. I didn't think I provided that to you, but I can, looking at a range of salary, I may or may not ever use it depending on it, but for every attorney, you have a range. That's kind of what I've been working on, and having a range and having people in that range. We were contacted by Wichita County, even though we were a small county that put us in it. I got a survey of salaries they did based on 2013 population and 2015 salaries. We're right in there. We just fall out on our felonies. We enter okay.
we lose felony prosecutors on salary. And we've had a pretty good non-turnover. I'm just saying, when we get to growth, I think we're a little different. We're close to Dallas. I just happen to be going to Mount Pleasant, and when we go through Hunt County, it's just different. It's a different county. We don't have Dallas. We just don't. So it's something to think about. I know it's a lot of money. We can go through the numbers individually, but that's just my pitch. I think that we've got enough staff will want to turn it down. And I think it's a child abuse or especially prosecutors. And family violence. That murder case we did last week was under the family violence case. We need to get out to more law enforcement, do more training. I don't know how else to do it unless they have a body. That guy killed that woman down there in Kent. That's a family violence case. That's all that was. I mean, just went a step too far. I mean, they had a previous case, and she decided not to prosecute. Nobody can ever follow up on that. I mean, I'm just saying, it's preventive. It's where we are. I don't know. I think Mike might have got a new investigator. We haven't had a new staff. I think people, to keep them, I'm specifically thinking about the guy I hired out of Oklahoma who's a good guy. Brian is the senior prosecutor. I'm going to lose him. He has to make my money. I mean, maybe I could just look at increasing him, but I think there needs to be a range. So when you break the number down, I look at it, when you're looking at simply just for attorneys across the board having a range without including benefits and not having the child abuse unit, you're talking about $120,000 to have that available to give people salaries. Everybody's not going to get that. It's just to have that range. I would be increasing the misdemeanor people, but how bad are we going to get any more movement? People will stay in misdemeanor court forever. We're going to lose them. We might. Then we have to hire brand new people.
So your beginning salaries, the entering salaries, you're not having trouble finding people for.
And really honestly, I haven't had problems so far, but I don't lose people. I mean, I made up a range, you just look at it.
Do you think that the attorneys in VA's offices and stuff move pretty good as it is?
So it's good to like the
I mean,
big
do you think they just, naturally, if they come here and work for a while and they say, well, they look online in Dallas or somebody else has got openings and they start applying and then just move up?
I think we have a good odds. I think we want to stay. I think some people won't leave. I could go through the list. I think people that actually put down roots and stay are going to stay. I do. I think. I mean, I could
certain percentage.
Yeah, people will stay.
The other ones.
What you find is they can't practice law. They might do some other stuff.
Right.
You can't practice law and be in this office. So, those are just, I'm just saying, it sounds like a lot. It won't be all used. I think it's a big range. And the reason you have a big range is you have a kid that gets bumped up from misdemeanor and goes right in a felony. They're making 60. Well, okay, they get a salary promotion, they should go up to 62. They don't go up to 73. But that's because you have levels of experience. And I don't mind giving you exactly what everybody's making right now in the office. But, yeah. So everybody, when you do the math, it may not even come up to that. But it's just if you looked at it.
I wonder if also it could be a factor to say, well, if you want to go into this range, if you took the average of what you have and said, well, we come up with this average and how much it is, and say, well, how about percentage wise, and say some of them you raise, and then if you raise that many, then you need to wait till the next year and figure out if you can raise more.
I haven't given
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm just saying that, and it's one of those things that you could even, I don't have to discuss if you get the range, but it's not bad for the commissioners to say, okay, this person is going to get the most in the range, because they're never going to get any better,
But
But then there's some people, that's my choice. There's some people,
Departmental decision.
it's departmental, but some people, you just know, they're not within that range. And it's something to think about. It's a lot. I know it's a lot, and it's something to think about. Like I said, and I don't know how y'all want to handle it, getting the grant or not getting the grant. So that's that, but as far as the general things, the general fund items, I think we're covering with the amount. We have a little problem with training, but, we're making it work.
One of the conversations, I can't remember who you or who it was with, is that evidently we had some pretty bad child abuse and stuff
Yeah.
across the county.
Yeah, and I'm, I don't mean this like, I'm not picking on the age, I'm not gonna name names. I think it's underreported. I think if we really tap into what we've got, I think it's scary. I mean, I don't say that, you know, it seems like you could go hyperbole, the worst and the good thing about the DA's office, you know, is, oh, it's so crime, so bad. I don't think crime, I think you send the signals, criminals communicate, just like everybody else, if their network is good. I'm not talking about non-violent offenders, I'm talking about violent offenders. We have a huge caseload. Y'all have already seen that when you gave us somebody to help us with the Michael Morton, so I didn't have to bring those numbers. You remember those numbers. My attorneys in felony are carrying 300 cases. You have all these, you're not gonna see numbers like this. Nobody carries 300 cases. It seems large, because we start from the time the police officer walks in until you dispose of it. A lot of offices, if you look down here, have an intake division, so you do all the work, get it to grand jury or file it, and then get it to the attorney. So when you look at your counterpart, the public defender, we just don't,
You don't separate.
right, and we can't say, oh, we can't take your case, we got too many cases. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a lot. Another thing I didn't know, and I'm gonna say this, I might be speaking out of turn, I haven't talked to John is really truly part-time, and I was looking at just increasing him with the increase of everybody else. I hadn't even thought about what that would cost if we actually took him full-time. I just didn't have time to talk about
Well,
that.
and I'm glad you brought that up, because you know I've been in trouble about that. Does John want to work full-time?
I don't know, with his health concerns, he
Yeah.
has a pretty good practice on the side of doing the things he does, but he might be in a place that he would, which would change what I'm asking, or I have to reconfigure that into that. I hadn't, I just wanna put that on y'all. I mean, we might meet another time. I know there's other people you need to start to get general information.
Yeah.
I think there's some things that John's just a wealth of information as a government attorney. We're schooling, Rebecca's doing a great job, and John's been a good mentor for her. And he doesn't mind showing her off. She had him at our Texas, conference that we do
Last week.
and she spoke, and he just let her have it, and they just love it. But I'm telling you, we took a chance on her. We hired her without a license, but sometimes, a kid's got it when they got it. And I remember saying, no, how about she doesn't pass the bar? But she'll pass the bar. I've seen people that do and people that don't, and sometimes you're surprised that she's got it. But now I've got people that are coaching them. You can tell other people. Well, I think that's a decision. If she wants to work in a small rural office, or she wants to work in a firm and work 12 hours a day, that's her call. I can't compete with that. I'm not nutty. For a person like her, for example, that's making maybe 50-something, I can't compete with 80-something for an entry-level job with her. I just can't. That's what those guys are making, that are good, that are like young associates. So I answered your question to say, I don't know if I should, I didn't know, the tail was wagging the dog, but I didn't know if the offer, if it was an option or not. Because Rebecca does other things, Rebecca's totally in juvenile.
Right, and that's the kind of the part, and we've discussed this, and Early and I met with John here a couple of weeks ago. And my concern has been that, and I know when we hired Rebecca, last year, or created that position, she was not an attorney, and of course she did pass her degree or her exam very quickly. But I guess maybe I didn't ask enough questions, but I was under the impression she was going to be working primarily for the Commissioner's Court.
Yeah.
But I understand now she's doing some juvenile thing. And the reason, and I think you've heard me say this, so,
No, it's
I don't want to just think I'm trying to just add on, but.
You're not speaking.
But it concerns me, and I think the commissioners too, that it does take us some time, a while to get an answer back.
You said that, it's not
Yeah.
surprising.
And I want to do something to fix that, I just don't know how to, it would need to be fixed with, with you to help us fix
Yeah,
it.
well, there's a couple ways to see how we're gonna approach it. For example, there's some matters, and let's go with some of these, you guys know these issues even more than I do, I think particularly in y'all's precinct. I think with some of the road destruction and working out, trying to work out settlements with these folks, you know, I don't, some of the time litigation gets so much, TAC is good and we have that insurance to bring in. But maybe things could go more readily with, you know, basic filing summary judgments, getting defaults, or declaratory judgments, and doing deck actions pretty quick, but you're gonna have somebody full-time. Rebecca's good, she's not good enough for something like that. What you want to get her worship, and you guys know this in your own area, you know things you can bring on and good for him, but you're gonna be the one that's gonna do it, he's gonna watch you, and the next time, he can do it. It's the same thing at law, the stakes are even higher for the county, I couldn't put her out there in that situation, I wouldn't do it.
Well, I understand that.
And so, it's something I want y'all to kick around, I didn't even put it in the budget, I think he might be at a point where he wants to do it, and we don't know how long that will be.
Right, and
We'll just have to play with that, but we don't know, we don't get to make those calls. So, those are just things I've been thinking about.
some counties, I don't think I know, do contract out, they have a retainer, another, private retainer on file, on file, you know, on retainer.
Yeah.
Local, and we use John Holt quite a bit for land and stuff, you know, real estate and stuff like that.
And there's still some that, I think what you get is, if you get somebody, and it's something you wanna think about, we could offer it to them, and then if that's something you didn't wanna do, you could look at the other, cause you have to look at, you could go through and have anybody look at all the money y'all spend on, even if you're having, even tax covered a certain amount that you're still gonna have to pay. So if you added up all of that, it would probably make up for some of the work you could do, I think. Now, I could be wrong. So that's some guidance I don't mind giving to you.
Judge Wood, y'all gave this to me earlier this morning on the state comptroller money, and I've been reading it.
They were $165,000.
That's $165,000, and the Commissioner's Court has the authority to start a program or contribute to a program to help children that are abused. I think that would be a prime opportunity to get the DA's office to work with the court and plan how you want to disperse that money and what it could be legally used for. Since she just brought up, there's so many crimes with juveniles. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And I think what we've done in the past is we've disseminated that money, which I think is great for a lot of nonprofits in town.
Yes,
I
it
think
is.
I think it's
Well,
wonderful.
primarily the advocacy center, but we've never had this much money.
Yeah, we did the advocacy center, I think the children's shelter.
I don't think we did the children's shelter last year, did we, Karen? I think we just did.
I'd have to go and look, Judge, but I do know one year we did disperse it between 3 or 4 different entities.
And last year we just did the cap.
Well, I think that was that other fund that had been sitting there dormant.
Oh, I think you're right,
Yeah,
Joe.
for
Yeah,
so
because
many
I wasn't
years.
familiar
Yeah.
with this one, I just
Yeah.
happened to be in your office that day.
Yeah, and I showed, I don't have another copy of
That's
the
okay.
law, but it does, I forgot about that, it says for economic development, and it's got and it specifically carves out a fund or a part for the Children's Advocacy Center, and last year we got $35,000, and we just voted to send it over to the Child's Advocacy Center. This year we got this $165, and, I mean, that's
a lot of
I
money.
mean, 3 years ago, we didn't get anything.
Right.
So, you know, it's continuing to grow, it looks like. It may not be that, there's no guarantee that we'll get that.
No,
There's-
Next year we might get 35 again.
that's right,
So
right.
if you
So-
budget it for something that's in full-time, somebody,
No, I
then
think-
next year you'd be in trouble because you'd
No,
have to
that, and
replace
that's,
our
I'll tell you
money.
what, that's why I went ahead and just came on with what I'm asking for. Because, I think you just gotta be straightforward with it.
Are you going to go ahead and apply for the grant?
We've already done it.
You've already got it.
Pam helped me with that, we already applied, and she stepped in, she was in here, but I don't know, usually you don't know about that grant, if you're gonna get funded or not, until it got close to, like late. I remember it was almost like August or September.
Oh, okay.
So I already applied.
My
Do you think
discussion,
this is just a one-year deal, one-shot deal?
No, it's not, I had the information, I think it's a 3-year deal, but I'm not, I
And
have.
it lowers the next year? Did I
No,
read
it's not,
something like
it's not that one, it's not.
Not that one? I know you sent one and I read it about, and that next year it was cheaper than,
Yeah,
next year
and I
it
didn't
was
even
lower
apply for
than.
that.
Yeah, I
Some
don't
of
know what
this,
that was.
this, I
I
think
think the
Yeah.
last one we got
I
was
have
for
more than-
37.5.
Mm-hmm. And And that was for our advocate, our
Crime
victim.
victims, yeah.
And we applied again for that.
There is a lot of that money out there this year through the state.
It is.
And some of it's because they freed up some of these funds, you know, they've been sitting on down there. And so I'm sure we're gonna hear more and more about that in the next few weeks
Yeah.
as stuff comes out of the legislature.
Yeah, because we're all gonna be going.
But I think Pam feels pretty good about this.
She does, but you know.
But I mean, we ain't got it right.
We ain't got it, don't mean anything. I'm trying to see, I had someone, I can tell you, let me say this, I don't,
Okay, I'm just,
Yeah. Because, well, it is different because, it's kind of like once you get in it, you always get it, but then we got the victim assistant coordinator for years, and then 1 year we finally we didn't get it. Just didn't get it. So that's why I think to assure and say that positions, this is one of those things you're applying for, and let's see how it works. We need it. We could put immediately 80 cases on that caseload, because we would include not only the child abuse, we include the protective order and the family violence cases. We'd do the training, and we would be more involved. I just think it's where
Well, none of us that sit around this table want to have child abuse going on, even though we know it does go on. But if we've got a way that we can speed those cases up, I just think that.
Right, and I'm not trying to throw any money, still we're at the bottom line, I'm not trying to throw any, oh, guilt that you don't do it, you don't have the money. What I'm trying to do is make you aware of what our needs are.
Yeah.
So you know, and as you get through the grant, you go, well, just can't do this, your kiddo, you're doing the best you can, you gotta keep it on your caseload. It gets you slower.
What we're doing today and tomorrow is just kind of getting a broad budget overview to see where we are with everybody's requests. And so we're not gonna make any decisions today, but we're going to here pretty soon, because we gotta have the budget pretty well, tentative budget worked out by the end of June, so.
Well, those are my issues. For other money that sometimes you'll ask me about, I wanted to share this with you. We have started working on the bond forfeitures a little bit, because you were asking about that line item once before.
Right.
I think it is, doing better, but I can tell you overall, for the good or for the bad, it's kind of like the theft shut fund. It's dying, okay? Because we're getting to a county the size that we're soon to go to a bond board. And what that means is, people are writing better bonds, because now we've jacked up the penalties if they write bad bonds, if people don't show up. We're trying to do what it's in.
Meaning the bail bondsman have to pay up pretty significant.
So we're gonna get a pretty good chunk, because we're gonna pop them at 15, but after that, we can already see, more people are in jail, we don't wanna do that. If we start seeing we have a lot of people in jail, we might loosen it up, but when that goes to a bond board, it's gonna be more rigid than dealing with the sheriff's department and me.
Okay. Go ahead.
Since John has so much to do on these cases, would you have a problem with us getting a different attorney for Commissioner's Court and let him concentrate on the legal cases that we have pending?
Would I care if we got, in other words, fire John or hire somebody else
No, not fire John. You said he's got so many cases to take care of.
outside?
Yeah, because if you put him on full-time, he more than likely doesn't want that.
I
If
haven't
he's
talked
got-
to him, I talked to y'all first.
Yeah, if he's got a practice of his own, because I can clearly see the distractions that he's dealing with.
if I say that DA's office, you can't, I'm not trying to interrupt you.
You can if you're part-time, because he's not a full-time
But
employee.
if you offered him full-time, you'd have to.
He'd have to
get
get rid of
practice.
everything.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, it'd be one or the other.
So,
He-
say it again now.
I could not have John as a full-time employee and he'd take outside work. He'd have to give up his practice, he'd have to wind his cases, refer another.
Right, but if he doesn't want full-time, do he?
I came to y'all first.
Right, assuming that he doesn't, assuming that he wants to stay part-time, he has enough work to do.
I would keep him part-time, which is really thorough with that,
Yeah.
but we would need to figure out how we want to get to the other. If he wanted it, I think there's enough work, but I had to give him time to wind up. But the wind up or wind down time is naturally gonna fall at October. So if that's something y'all decided, this being the first day of June, you got 6 to 10 to get that done. People wind up and down practices, you get a bench, you have to wind your practice up from November to January. People do it all the time.
Sure.
So I'm just saying, Judge Blair, sorry. So that's what I'm saying, but if not, that's why I wanna know which way y'all are going, I wouldn't even offer it. Like I said, he may not, you bring up a very good point though.
Well, I'd suggest him stay part-time, and I'd like to see the Commissioner's Court get a new separate attorney from outside Kaufman
Well,
County?
there's a couple of things you could do. If you're saying to me you're not gonna fund that, for me in my office, that's fine. If you want to retain your own attorney, that's y'all's call. That's not my call.
Yeah, see, that's like, oh, John.
Or he's saying keep him, but bring on somebody else and retain him.
Right. That's
I know
I'm
what
saying.
you're saying, I got it, but I think you'll find, that's on y'all, you run into a similar problem that you and I've talked about. It's just, you'll be surprised, but that's your all's thing.
And I know you can't talk a lot about the Rambo case, but I know it's coming up in October, and so.
No, it actually starts August the 17th, we're gonna bring in the big panel over at the
At the
court.
South Campus. But everything, you got all the attorneys you need and everything like that, we're good to go,
Well,
but y'all are doing that in-house.
We definitely did it out, there's no conflict, we're gonna have 3 attorneys on that case, so, the office will do what it'll do.
And the regional public capital murder folks, they're doing the defense again.
Whose court is gonna be in?
422.
Let's see.
Are you asking about them?
No, I'm just
Because I can
asking.
tell you about them.
Yeah,
I think y'all really need to think about them.
Yeah, well, we like the price, you know.
You get what you pay for. We'll see how these cases don't appeal. Because there's nothing worse than doing capital murder, but doing it twice.
So how do you really feel about it?
Already said it. Are we good?
Okay.
Thank
We're
you.
good.
Thanks, Judge.
Thank you.
Y'all got anything else before she?
No,
I was making y'all wait.
Okay.
no problem.
Answered some questions from earlier that you asked about Anderson County.
Oh, okay.
This is the sheets under forward.
Judge, did you wanna, early, did you wanna say anything about your forfeiture fund? It's in here. It's
no,
pretty well,
We're
no,
not
we
fixing any
can,
cars with it, well, no.
we can't, I've got a list of things you can and can't do, I found out some things that you can't do. I was gonna tell you.
okay. And then she gave us this information on Henderson.
So you want, are you meant?
Rhonda, you'd like to come on up?
Hey, Tom. How are y'all?
Good. All right, Rhonda's got her information here, and you're, talking about, a couple of new employees you'd like to have. Where would you put them?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
I have one spot that I could put, one where my part-time helper sits, I could put him there, and I guess I could share my desk.
Yeah. Right now, you have a total of how many employees? 8. And you have 2 part-time or 1
I
part-time?
have one
I
part-time.
know last year you got a couple of kids, or 1 kid, I think, and that's worked out
It
fairly,
has,
very well.
which they do a lot of my filing files, and pulling files and filing loose papers that we get back from the judge's office.
Right.
They file those, so we keep them busy.
Are you behind, on where you,
As far as,
on keeping up with the day-to-day stuff?
we're busting our butt, and then I take home my iPad and I work out at home.
Right.
On my iPad. The e-filing, which they say it should cut employees, it does not. For 1 week, on just filing, not what we sent out, just what we accepted 261 documents for 1 week. Well, that's for 4 days, for last week. And that was 261 filings is what we filed. That was what came in on e-file system, not what we sent back out. On all of this that we send in, it has to have, if they send in to us, it has to have a hearing set or something, we have to e-file it back to them.
So you really hadn't seen the decrease?
I mean, we're busting our butt trying to keep up. And that's why I've taken stuff home. I accept it at home, a lot of stuff at home after hours, because we just cannot keep up. And take care of the counter also, those people that come in on the counter. We do a lot of criminal stuff, CPS and all that, and, our AG. We still do some of that over the counter.
Yeah.
and our passport.
Where are you on your fees? Are you maxed out on what can be done with fees in your court? I mean, in your,
As far as-
office?
As, increase on
Yeah.
fees, yes, we'll have October is when, if we go and do any fee changes, they'll give us what we can increase on our
But
fees.
you've not heard of any changes
Not
at this
yet.
point in
Not
time?
that they're legislative committee.
Yeah.
We charge the maximum of everything.
So you would have space for one
For
full time?
one, for sure.
Okay.
And then the second one, I mean, if I had to give up my desk and go into my office, I could do that, and still work in there. I mean, we'd have to have a better computer in the office, but I could work in my office.
And then the car allowance, I noticed where you've been getting $1,200 and you're looking for an increase to $6,000. And that is because you travel back and forth to,
Back and forth to the bank, out to, and I, something, if I have a CD I have to cash in, I have to go back out to the bank twice. If I have to cash it in, or if I have to, cause a lot of our CDs we get from minors over $1 million, I don't wanna keep those type of checks in the office overnight.
right,
So I'll take those back to the bank and invest those. And then I have to go to the South Campus to pull files. So a lot of our old criminal files and civil files that still are not imaged in our system, then I have to go and do that. And that fee has not been increased since I've been in office. That's probably $1,200 since I've been in office, and even, I think before then.
okay.
And also, I brought a report on our, money that we brought in on, just on our passports have increased by a bunch. We do passports, and for each passport that we do, the county collects $25. And just from October 1st to today, we've collected $22,000 just in passport applications. Well, the surrounding counties, you have to have appointments for surrounding, for like Rockwall
Yeah.
and all those, so they're all sitting in the Kaufman. And if you come in after 12 o'clock, our little office is full of people wanting passports. And so we're getting all those from out of county, and they don't
want to build in their county?
They don't wanna stand.
they don't want, they don't, well, no.
Oh, they don't want, okay.
No, they don't want to, they have to have appointments. The clerk's office won't only take them by appointments. Well, we don't, we take walk-ins. And the last I talked to Rockwall 2 weeks ago, the next appointment was 3 weeks out. And a lot of these people, they need them right then.
Sounds like trying to get a commercial driver's license.
Really?
So that's increased, and, I mean, that's a $23,000 increase, and that's why, another reason why I was thinking, even one or two, which I was hoping for 2 employees could really help on that, because we still have to,
Right.
physically help with that, along with our criminal cases that we do.
What do you typically start your employees out,
27,000.
like the basic beginning, plus their insurance and all that? So somewhere around 40,000 would be.
With the insurance and all.
County insurance. and
We
retirement,
collected,
all that.
as of this morning,
Oh, you know, the six.
from October 1st
Okay.
to today, $23,200. And in copies, which that goes into general budget also, it's 30,000, which we made in copies, which we make those copies for them. And they walk up to the.
We charge $1 a page, or is that what you get charged?
That's what we get.
On these,
$28,000.
yeah, on these,
Same thing.
No,
42,700.
you have to go to Dallas now, do the same thing.
on these, fees, you know, that we charge, and I know we look at those every year. It seems to me that, you know, we all try to keep them certainly reasonable, but they ought to at least pay their way, you know, and, so. And I know we did, or you did a lot of imaging this year from across the street, and I know we're not finished.
No,
And we used, quite a bit of the money that.
all that I have, we
Yeah,
use.
it's pretty well out. And so, but, how much stuff is still across the street, in the old library?
We still have to get us to a good stopping point, or to where we don't have to run across to see if that file is there. It would be $50,000 is what I need to get us to a good stopping point.
Okay.
To finish the South Campus itself, across the street, I would need about $213,000 to
in addition to the 50.
That would be.
That'd be the total.
That'd be the total.
Everything. That's what your girl is.
Yeah, and I think you've still got some money in that, I don't know.
Not a whole lot.
Okay, I know we spent it down.
We just finished, 3 books, so that took our last 5,000 to finish those books.
And you haven't had a chance to start going through what you've done, the old books that were over there, we've got them at the South Campus. But you've still got to go through them individually, and you started doing that, so.
We have not started that yet.
Okay.
Because we're trying to keep up with our office.
Is that something, if we hired a couple of kids this summer, that could help do that, or can they do that? Is that,
They could do that with someone from our office there with them
okay?
to supervise.
You know, that might be money well spent, not just every kid can do it, but, you know, that might be money well spent. I'd be in favor of trying to do that.
Kids in government class.
Yeah.
Because they have to, they have to pull each file and go do it individually, and look at each document.
If you don't,
Teachers will be out this week, smart kids.
yeah, if you don't mind, you might kind of look, see the availability of that, finding kids. I mean, probably ask around the courthouse, find somebody that won't do it, you know. But we really need to get those rooms empty.
Get money paid for them kids.
I do.
Yeah, we pay them like, you know, $8 an hour, whatever you're paying them. You know.
Well, even for that, I think I still have, I can use the part-time person that I have, or that I would use during school, and then with a couple more, I think we could get it done pretty quick. I mean, we've got, look at how many,
Is it, what's it?
that's all
What's
those
it
boxes.
entail getting this done? Is it just moving basically?
Pulling each file, and
Pulling
each
each file.
box has about 50 cases, or 25 cases in them. And I forget how many boxes we have over there already. I mean, we have what,
Four rooms.
Four rooms.
Pretty well
boxes
full over there.
with cases in there.
Scan them, what they do.
They've been scanned in, an outside, data bank scanned them all in for us.
Okay, so what would a part-time help do?
They would go through and pull out, say, our citations, any stuff anything that's not signed by a judge, they would go out and pull that out, and we could shred all that and decrease the size, by. And then we could get our filing that's over here, our filing cabinets.
Kids over here tomorrow.
On shelves, and move them over there and put them all on shelves
Well,
and
they have to
empty.
have a little training to know what.
Right, and that's why it would take,
Yeah,
to
they have
begin
an
with,
adult out there, I guess.
a couple of people out of the office.
Ones that are.
Yeah, but what happens, see, when this room across the street, the old, I don't know if you've ever been in it, not the old library, or whether you've been in it or not, but it's pretty bad shape for one thing, but it was just packed with files from the district clerk. I think Early has some files.
She has some
up there.
upstairs.
And I think the county clerk has some, I don't know how much they've got over there. So she had about 100 and something thousand in her special fund that we depleted. I
Right.
mean, Karen really worked and
She
depleted.
worked hard
Yeah,
in getting it all.
but
figured out.
there were some things in there that she's required by
I-
law.
I have-
In other words, the scanning, you just couldn't do
Because
it.
you can't ever get rid of it.
Yeah, and so what we did, we moved them to the, like we were everything else, we
I
moved to
saw
the
that.
south.
Yeah, I saw those.
Yeah.
I've seen
But you can probably maybe trim those down to,
A lot.
yeah.
But it's just gonna take time going through.
And when these ones that we have to keep permanent for some odd reason, how are we supposed to store it? Literally, do we still continue to have ones that we're gonna have to keep permanent?
But not the whole file.
Not, we don't have to keep all of it.
Like we do the old ones. The old ones we have to
We
keep
have
the
to keep
whole
all
thing.
of those.
And
the
these new ones, since the electronics, we get to narrow it way down
Right,
to
narrow it down.
like a really thin.
It'll be pretty thin. I mean, we've got some cases that probably 15, 20 files, which is mostly depots and stuff like that, that we wouldn't have to keep.
Yeah, I talked to a company that, Doug was there, in Austin, that put in the firehouse before. That's one of the things they do, those kind of buildings that store that.
See, they have to be,
Yeah.
heated and
Air conditioning.
Yeah, you gotta keep
And then rotate them. We need a lottery ticket to buy one of those things.
Remember that, Joe?
I'm just
Write it down.
I'm just trying to figure out, cause like at South Chemistry, I was walking around in it, and I was thinking, aren't these supposed to be in some kind of air conditioned and heated? And of course, it didn't seem like it was very on in there, and it was really wet and damp, and everything was kind of.
In, where I have my files in the, I guess that was maybe the
No, I don't.
sanctuary, it's air conditioned, we paid,
I know
Sandra
it.
paid for that.
It's
I-
right
Yeah,
behind
but
the
it
shop
doesn't
maker's
seem to-
office.
It doesn't seem to work real well with all those cement walls. I mean, it just sweats and moisture's in there all the time. That one room's halfway decent, and I guess that's the one you're talking about.
It's, say,
Cause I know all those other files in those other rooms, I don't know if they're Mars or what, but flat. They're gonna be running.
Mine are in filing cabinets, and right now they're in, so there's some that we scanned in boxes, but most of them is over there. All of them that, except for those that we had scanned are all in filing cabinets, and that room is climate controlled.
Why don't you do this, why don't you do it, kind of see what might be out there and what you, if you think you can spare somebody to go out there and work it. I don't have any idea how long it takes to do it. I mean, it'll take a while,
It'll take
and then they'll have to have somewhere,
somewhere to,
because they gotta be shredded or burned or something.
and that, when we get ready to do that, we have someone from our office has to
Be
Witness
be there
there.
to do that.
You get that over summer, too.
It's gonna be, take them all day.
I mean, you got a couple of three
We
kids.
had,
3 kids.
Yeah.
and then a couple from a couple girls out of the office.
Yeah, because it needs really to be done, we need to
So we drag it
space.
out.
Yeah.
We have the money, so let's do it.
Well, I mean, I even thought, when I was looking at them that day, I was even thinking, well, boy, there's, we talk about the South campus all the time, but maybe the main building part, maybe that's what we need to do, go in there and build a storage room.
Well, how much room to build storage room? Inside the?
No, build
Add
it
on
in
to
there,
it.
the whole thing, take the whole back part of it into a storage room with files, turn the air conditioning heat on, and if it comes down to that kind of stuff, you free up so much space
Yeah.
everywhere,
Okay.
Something's gotta be determined somewhere along the line that all this stuff's gotta go somewhere.
I know, our main thing, if we could find where we're gonna go so they can start putting our shelving up as we go through them, so when they go through them, they can put them on that shelf.
Yeah, so they don't have to be moved again. Yeah.
Well, as the summer's coming up, and there's an awful lot of people that probably could use some money. So if you tell me that you need so many people or something, and you let me know.
Ask around the courthouse or employees or somebody will ask the kids that want
Like I say, go to the schools,
They got the NHS kids. Or
I have one I'll send you myself. I have one that I'll send you myself. I need to buy him tires on me. Money, buy it on that. But I mean, I'm serious,
Oh,
a
and-
bunch of scholar kids over there that, they all have to be on
And
the
then it would
academic
be
list
someone
to work.
from
and
their
all that.
supervisor, so,
Yeah.
that we would have learned about himself.
Right.
In fact, if you look at the next page right behind her budget, you'll see, this was the indexing and recording, fund, right behind her budget. Yeah. And you see, we started out with, $155,000, I believe. Carol, Karen, get me on that, you have this?
Hundred and fifty-five, 1487, the index of records.
Yeah.
As of April 30th, we've spent $149.76.
Right, yeah. So we played a lot of it, but you still need about 200,
13,120. Karen said she has the money somewhere, though, but don't worry about it.
Probably change such way.
Okay.
And I don't know, on my third page, I also asked for new equipment money
Mm-hmm.
for a laptop and a printer and a cart for checking in our drawers. Because right now what we do, there's two of us out in the hall, we check them in, we run back into my office, we scan them in, get the judge's list. I mean, we've got someone running back and forth till we finish checking them in. Because once I go into the courtroom, the judge wants his list. So when he calls their name out, he can look at his list and say, you know, call by name, so it's more personal.
I didn't know you met that, I don't know that much, yeah.
Is that something you've tried to get this year? I think that's a yes.
I've asked, but, I've talked to Barbara, and I thought before we used some stuff that she has, and we've done it that way. Like we were out at the South Campus a couple of times, we've used stuff that she has already.
Yeah. Karen, that's right, that down is something we might, get towards the end of this budget year, we might be able to see where we are. Go ahead and get that off there, because you're not talking about a huge amount of money.
What, one laptop?
One laptop and a printer, and a card for us to. We don't have it. I
That
mean,
we found it.
only time it's a problem is when we're downstairs.
Yeah.
And when we're upstairs, it's not a big deal for us to run back and forth, but
Yeah,
when we're downstairs.
but it just make it flow better, I mean, no question about that. All right, anybody have anything else for Rhonda?
If we got you, or if you got the part-time, will you still need the 2 full-time employees?
I would, because that's gonna take at least one.
Supervision. That's about 85,000, 86,000.
Yeah,
Two
yeah, 85, only about 85, starting at 27, 28,000. 28,000 to 42,000.
It's 56,000.
Full pay.
Yeah, you got the employee back, you know, the year that we were in the hose bad, you cut an employee. Or
No, I
you-
didn't have to cut it, because I was already understaffed, so I didn't have to cut it.
Okay, you've never made that position back, or did you get an employee since?
I got an employee,
Okay,
last year.
okay. Plus the part-time.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the first time I asked for it, we worked it out with the part-time.
Yeah.
Yeah, eight now, right?
In a pretty tight space. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one will be the sheriff, and we're a little ahead of time, so we're doing good. Y'all wanna go ahead and do that now, you wanna take a break? Let's do it. Go ahead and get it done.
Yeah, good. He's gonna come in with, he's cutting it less than half, isn't he?
I misread that. We got a whole big book.
Brian's in the hall.
Y'all stand up and take a
Break right now.
what we like to hear.
How are you? Y'all can drag up 2 chairs down there.
See you.
Thank you.
All right. Any better, I couldn't sing. There's her copy.
Thank you.
She always.
All right, you've got a separate, budget that you gave us, and you got it broken down pretty detailed.
Yes, sir.
Very detailed, in fact.
Got it done.
Used to this at this point, now that we've got doing this couple, 2 or 3 years now.
Right. And so, tell us, what we're doing today, just so you guys know, we're just kind of looking at the overall broad budget. Yeah, no, broad budget, package, I'll get that.
Right, easy for you to say.
I'm having to try something else here.
We got you.
This is the one that makes you bleed.
And, you know, we're just looking at things, kind of seeing where we are, and we'll be, you know, we'll have at least a couple more workshops, I'm sure, at least, and then we'll come back towards the end of June, and then we will adopt a tentative budget. That we have to have, you know, we have to post it for 30 days before we can actually adopt the budget. But to make it work right, we have to go ahead and get it tentatively done, and then we'll get, you know, information in during the month of start off?
We can start at the first tab and go to 560 in the regular, full budget here.
Okay.
And then I guess, as we start going down through here, the first thing you'll notice is, I guess the big change is the parts and repair. That's the 25,000.
Yeah, that's 3216, line 3216.
Yes. And I think the big thing on that, if you'll notice our parts and repair where we're running now, pretty behind. The biggest problem that we have, which we have a tab for that on fleet repair, that pretty well explains that. I'll just kind of give you the rough brief, and I know y'all probably already looked at it, is that we're having issue with tires and rims. We have bent several rims, if you notice all the reports that we've got in the back document of that.
Is that because of the county roads or anything? I shouldn't have said that.
You gotta quit buying the big rims with the little tires.
We got the standard rims.
Those Escalades, you can put normal tires in those Escalades.
So that's, and also the tires, we're having some issues with the tires. I believe they're making them a little softer. If you notice, we compared the two, and they're wearing a lot faster. So what we're planning to do is that we've got some Firestones and some Goodyears, and we've usually been going with Firestone, Jack, because that's who's got the bid, and that's what we're doing with that. Our concern is we want to take two identical vehicles that's being used the same and putting Firestones and putting Goodyears on the other. That way you can see what we're getting out between the both of them. I believe the Goodyears might be a little more expensive, but I think we'll get longer wear out of them. So that's some of the stuff we're trying to look at and working with Jack to see.
Jack, they're all on buy board or something like that?
They're on a state contract,
Yeah.
and of course, you know, on the tires, when you go speed rated tires, you obviously give up the mileage portion of it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
In which we gotta have speed rated tires
We do.
on these vehicles.
How many companies make those? Just two?
Pretty much, as far as I know, Firestone and Goodyear, unless Jack knows somebody, that's the only two that I know of.
There might be a Michelin, but I think.
Does Toyo not make any?
No.
Toyo tires
They're
they're good. They're best truck tires.
The Yokohama makes speed rated tires, and
Yeah.
so does
Susie's car.
Pirelli and.
I know
a few more. Yeah, but Pirelli makes it, they're too soft, they wear out too quick.
Yeah.
That's the trouble with some of them, the speed rated.
That's the problem.
They grip the road
They
good.
grip the road
but
good, but they're too soft, so they wear out.
They're wearing tires.
If you go back to 2013, look at that far left-hand column, we spent $119,000 that year on parts and repairs, and then the next year we spent $119, just a few $100 less. And then this, in 2015, we adopted the budget of $100,000. Whenever we looked at the 2014 budget, we went with I guess we went with, Karen hit me on this, we went with maybe $108,000, and as of April 30th, we spent about $67,000.
If you look at the top, it gets confusing, the 2014 needs to be 2015 revised.
Okay.
That makes it,
250.
that kind of makes it confusing, because
Yeah.
you wanna jump back to 2014 column and look.
It does help. And so really what we're talking about is going back to about where we were a couple of years ago.
But that's what we're trying to, and that's the reason why, is because the tires and the rims is, a big issue with that, so.
Okay, anybody got any questions about that?
Well, the parts and repair, that's all engine, transmission, everything.
That's everything, anything fixed on the vehicle.
I got a question about the Tahoes. How are they holding up as far as engines, transmissions, suspensions?
They're holding up great. We've had one issue with one where we wind up, I believe, dropping a valve. And, out of all the ones we've got, I think that's real good.
How many miles did it have on it?
Over 100,000, I think 101 is what it said.
Did you
We've
fix
had
it?
good.
Did you repair
Yes,
it?
sir, we put,
Yeah, we saw.
yeah, we put it over.
Yeah.
The cars, it's still holding up good. We've talked to our maintenance guy in the back, and they're holding up just as good as the Crown Vic. We have double checked, because when y'all brought up the concern about that, we've heard nothing besides this one vehicle. We went back there and had a conversation and talked with him, and he said, no, they're holding up fine.
What about other departments? Have you heard any other issues? Because I know most of the cities, highway patrol, I
We're talking with Terrell and all the other ones we've talked to, nobody's having an issue with it. They're working really well for them.
Have we ever tried Ford? Were they just outpriced, or were they not make a pursuit vehicle, or?
I don't know, we've always had good luck with Chevrolet. It's kinda like when we had Crown Vics, we always stuck with Crown Vic cars.
We stay with what was.
That's the way it works, I mean, it holds up good, so.
Do you know if they
We've
have?
had one.
They do, I guess, what is it, is it Explorer now? They got-
Explorer, yes.
Yeah. It's a lot smaller though.
Yeah, it's a little bit smaller, and plus, we've had one that didn't hold up too good for us. And that's been a long time, we've tried one a long time, yeah. So it's, and that's when they first come out, but it was super rated, but we hadn't tried one since.
I know some of the cities now are using Ford.
I hadn't seen one in the county yet, but that,
What's it called? You got one?
it's Kaufman again, I hadn't seen it yet.
I think you can use them in the city, but the county, you know, with the roads and stuff, I mean, I hate to keep beating that down, but some of the passenger cars aren't gonna hold up, you know, on the road.
Gas and oil, any other questions about the budget, parts and repairs? All right, and the next big item, of course, is gas and oil, and we kind of lucked out there this year, you know.
Yeah, so far, I think the fuel man, looking at that, and the big thing is, when we first went to the fuel man, we was running about 28, 30, but we hadn't really got into the summertime, that's when we started using quite a bit of fuel, that's when, because I think our last bill last month was 22,000. Summertime, we're gonna run a lot more, we got a lot more cost service, a lot of things going on, so it'll get up there, and it's gonna be close to about 300, I think, once we get our summertime in.
Do you, Rick?
Yes. We might save 25 to 30,000, I think, but I think we're gonna get close to it.
Well, we know when it'll go back up too.
And that's.
Sometimes it always goes up,
Yeah.
go into their,
Vacations.
their summer fuel,
Yeah.
what they call it, and that raise the price.
Do we still do bulk fuel, do y'all still
Well,
have with?
fuel man is what we use. We have the bulk out there. We fill it when is that? Probably once a month, maybe, or every 2 months. Man, it's very seldom.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because Tommy Borders, I talked to him about a month ago, and he's kind of concerned that, I don't know, how big is y'all's tank out there? 5,000, 1,000?
I think it's like 45.
He's kind of concerned that y'all not running the fuel through it, that stuff's gonna get stale, and we might need to actually stabilize it.
We've been putting some
Okay,
stabilizers.
all right, I need to talk to you about that.
But you still buy fuel for it.
Yes.
I mean, you still use.
Yes.
But this gas now, you gotta put stabilizer in it every 30 days.
Yeah, you got so much alcohol in it,
Alcohol.
it'll settle out.
Yeah, settle out and turn into water.
You mean when I pull up to Walmart pump?
You get the gas, you get the water on the bottom.
One thing about Walmart, they burn theirs up every day.
So we've been watching, in which we use the lawnmowers and all that stuff around there, and then for some reason they need to feel something.
We probably.
4,000 gallons worth of lawnmower
Every
gas.
time we use lots of gas.
Man, you are seriously being used for lawnmower.
You give your detective cards, undercover cards and stuff out there, so you don't have to.
Some of them at the back, yeah.
Anything else on the gas and all, everybody satisfied with that? And again, you know, a budget is an educated estimate, you know, and so we never know what's gonna happen one year to the next. Legal notices hadn't done very much, but that's another one of those things, you never know.
Never know when we get something, they have to put out legal notice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Postage, it looks like it's running about, through April, that would be 7 months, right?
Yes.
Sharon, so you
Yes, sir.
look like you're running about good there. Mileage, meals, and lodging, you might explain to us what all that includes, that's,
mileage, meals, and lodging is any mileage that we do paying, which we hardly ever do that. And then the meals and the lodging is when we go out on training. For all of our investigators, law enforcement, CID, everybody comes out of this.
this wasn't the,
Only
the jail would
sheriff,
be.
sheriff.
Yeah,
This is on the
jail
sheriff's side.
would be where you do the.
On the other
pickup
side.
the prisoners.
Now, the jail side's over there, that's also training for the jail side.
Okay.
This is all the operational side that we're talking about right now.
So if you got officers going to pick up somebody in Waco,
No, sir, that's not coming out of here. You're talking about prisoner transport.
Yeah.
This is all for training.
okay. Anybody have any questions about
I
that?
felt deputy salary's got a -18,000.
And then, that's negative, and working with Karen, I think we're really close on that. And a lot of that is deputies that's leaving that had longevity, merit, and all of that.
Oh,
That's where that come in.
Yeah, you
Because these
mentioned-
people had a lot of longevity and a lot of merits, and when they left, that's what told about.
and the certificate pay too, we've lost some.
Several that's had that.
Anybody have any questions about the, line 4305, the training and education cost? Computer forensics, tell us exactly, we got, you know.
And that's a breakdown and itemized, if you'll look on the third tab, which is 104306-560, and you'll see the forensic deal. And you'll see all the paperwork that goes behind it and the bids, and this is working with Captain Klingenberger and Lieutenant York, who handles all this work for us. What this is including is 2 new Cell-Brite license, IEF finder, license fee, another forensic machine that they're needing also to put another person that we're gonna utilize in the IT department, which is Lieutenant January, to get his machine because they're getting a little bit behind with that. And that is the cost alone of adding a new forensic machine and all the licenses for it, added about $12,000, if you notice that in the back of the bid. And then the additional training that it's gonna take to get January trained and all that. The reason they're doing this is they've got about approximately 30 agencies that they're doing right now, and that's including a lot of agencies that's touching this county, the adjoining counties. We're also doing stuff for the Rangers, DPS, that is also coming to us. The big problem that we have with this is Secret Service and who else is doing it? FBI that is doing some of this stuff. They're almost 18 months behind on getting stuff done. So people are coming to us because we've got to turn around about 6 months, 6 to 8 months is what Fred and them are turning around, getting this.
Do we charge?
Yeah, on getting this.
Do we,
We're not charging them, but they're buying all their storage devices. This is the equipment that we've got to have to get the evidence off the stuff. We've got to have it anyhow. But what costs us is a storage device and stuff to put that record on and give to them. They're paying for their storage devices and all that.
well, you mentioned that, yeah, you mentioned that like out of county, I would think our, you know, in our county, yeah.
But it's hard to tell another agency no.
Yeah, because they
as
help
much
us.
as they helped us,
Yeah.
and they never charged us a dime.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think we owe them a little bit to help out, especially on major crime.
Well, it doesn't hurt for me to ask.
Oh, no, no. I mean, we're all for that, but we also gotta help supporting
Well,
entities that help
Baker
us.
County, I would assume Dallas County would be able to take care of theirs, I guess.
Well, Tarrant County, some of the other ones, but some of their smaller agencies, you got Seagoville that's right there inside Dallas County, which they've got now part of Kaufman County, they're coming with stuff, so it's not the big agencies like Dallas and Tarrant County, all of them are doing their own, but the smaller agencies that need some decent turnaround time, they're coming to us.
Okay. Anybody have any
Do
questions?
we put the things on priority? I mean, if we have.
They prioritize our stuff, our stuff
So
is
our
gonna
stuff
come
goes in front of
first.
them all there.
Yes,
It's a case by case type situation.
I know the Eric Williams deal, I'm sure they dropped everything to get.
well, that's what we had Tarrant County and everybody else, a big help with that.
Yeah.
So, like I say, we prioritize them, any major crimes, we're gonna help and get that involved, but if it's our stuff that we need to get moving along, we're gonna move it along.
Anybody have any questions about that?
Then it said the new forensic towers, and it hadn't been upgraded since the program started basically.
Well,
When
that's wrong, that's my fault, that's from last year, you can mark that out because it's a new machine, we
gonna
purchased
say,
2 last year.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
that's my fault, I didn't take that out, you can mark that out because that's only including 1 machine.
Okay, other questions? All right, let's move on down to the next one. Bonds, and that's, again, kind of a. You never know, I guess that's depending on the number of people that we have.
Exactly, that's really depending on what we required on the bonds. Like
Law
I say,
enforcement, liability.
that's something I have no control over, Karen. Karen and Jack takes care of that for us, so that's the number that
Is
we
that for
have.
TAC?
Yeah, I know we have law enforcement liability insurance, then.
And just do-
Is that for their, for your deputies,
Yeah.
for lawyers, if something
Yeah.
happens?
That's for all our liability that covers
Or
for us.
county
for us.
liability.
Yeah, county liability for law
I
enforcement.
didn't know which one.
Yes.
what it was for.
I thought that went through TAC.
It probably does,
It
actually,
does.
that line item, I don't know.
Yeah, it does. This is just the number they give us, and what you can tell is $130,000 is what we paid, so.
And it's been
105.
It's paid up for the rest of the budget year.
Yes, it's a one-time deal, and I believe we paid it up,
Premium.
Yeah.
the premium already, so.
Sometimes if there's, you know, change or something, they'll add a little bit to it, cause you'll notice it was like in 2013,
Yeah, I looked
$136,000.
at that, yeah.
Then it went down to 131,
And it renews January to December.
December, yeah.
Uniform?
We will run right on target with that.
Any questions?
No.
Dues, polygraphs.
Use polygraph? Tell us about the polygraph. That just as you contract with DPS or somebody on that, or?
On that, no, sir, this is an internal investigation that we did. They won't handle internal investigations when we have something internal.
This is for your deputies, if you wanna give them a polygraph?
If we,
That's
and
what it
then
is.
sometimes if we have to, for some reason, we can't get someone to use this polygraph.
Okay.
But it's not for hiring purposes, it's just for ongoing investigations if we need something done.
But it's contracted out to somebody.
Yes.
Yeah. But we don't do polygraph.
No.
Yeah.
Find out who got the last donut.
Yeah.
Oh, machines on eBay, maybe I'll just buy that.
Polygraph machine? Really?
Yeah.
Well, really, there's not, they don't even use,
Look at
they
that.
don't even use
That'd be
machines
fun.
no more, it's a computer and a program.
No, I know, that was.
That's why it's for sale.
That's why
Yeah,
it's
it's
for
for
sale.
sale. Can't slam
No, I
the
think
ink on the wall.
I think there's an app on your iPhone for it now, I don't think it is, put your finger on that.
And then 4808 is right fingerprint equipment and body armor, I guess.
Yeah, so that's where we get all our body armor, fingerprint supplies, and, which we've got some stuff, I think, probably since this has been done, that's, gonna be encumbered.
All right, we spent like 14 back in 13 and 15 and 14.
Then we moved it up to 30 last year to catch the grant on some of that bulletproof, and then we've got a grant fund, with some of that's been coming back, because we have to pay it up first,
Yeah,
and
would
then
this,
reimburse for 50% of it.
would this be where the body cameras would be paid out of?
No, so we're working on a grant for that one right now.
But on some of those grants, I know Pam's been talking about it, but are those matching grants or something we have to do?
The one we're working on now is gonna pay the full amount.
Yeah, I know it's for the state.
Yes, they did the 1,500, and almost everybody in the county, with the Chiefs Association, we talked with Jody Lay and Rick Barnes and all, nobody wants to get on board because it's too encumbrance in what they're asking to do with it. If you'll read the whole outline of it, so we went another way with the JAG grant, and they're paying the full amount.
Yeah, I know there's some federal
Right.
JAG money out there. that
So that's
I
what
think
we've done.
Maybe that's why the state.
We've got 30,
Maybe that's why the state did it.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't go.
Go get the federal money.
Right.
Somebody.
Y'all gonna try to outfit all the patrol deputies?
Yeah, so we, with this grant, if it's approved, we'll have 30. So that should come close. It ain't gonna catch everybody, it'll come close, and then we'll try to get some more and trade out some, so.
What about, and of course, you wouldn't be in your department, but I guess the same thing with constables and maybe the fire marshal's office.
Yeah.
That'd be left up.
Each
that'd be
of them,
up to
yes.
their area.
Each
This
of
was
their departments.
for
So
you
that
guys.
most of the constables have the bike cam.
Yeah,
They've been buying.
I already have.
Do-
I was gonna say, because, I mean, they're
Well, the fire
buying two or
marshal
three,
needs
four
to
at the
buy
moment,
it.
where we're buying.
We don't think fire marshal
40.
needs it, but they get the grant for free.
Well, cameras, I mean, that's almost necessity nowadays, I guess, for the deputy's protection as well as.
And the case, I mean, it's these days, if you don't have it on video, they're not gonna go trial with it these days. It's just, the word of a police officer is not as near like it used to be, I can tell you that now. So, which is sad, it's a sad day.
Any questions about that line item, 4808?
Just that we should have money left over,
Yeah.
everything goes well.
Handheld portable radio.
And that, we had done nothing with because our radio system.
Okay.
There's no need in that. We've had to have, the mobiles, we had to run out and had to buy, a couple of those just because we had to have them. So we're trying to keep from purchasing anything until we get on the new system, and then, like I say, then we'll probably have to buy a few here and there down the road.
So do you want to go ahead and continue budgeting the handheld and the mobiles,
Yes.
kind of as a placeholder?
Yes, sir, and that's because we're gonna wind up having to replace some here and there. I mean, once it goes out, if somebody loses one, we're gonna have to pay
There's
for
not
it.
an actual in the 2015 though, but you haven't spent any in that
Not yet.
75
No, because we hadn't spent it because we're gonna need to spend it because we're gonna go to a new system. If we can keep from.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but I mean, in the new system, we have enough bond money to buy all the radios.
Right, and that'll purchase everything, but if a deputy gets out here, gets in a foot suit and loses one radio and we can't find it, we gotta replace that radio, because we've got just enough radio.
Under
So
the,
we gotta get his MasterCard number.
for the old, I mean, this is
Yeah.
the old radio.
Yes, sir, this is all,
Radio repair,
That should go down.
Yeah.
We're gonna be under warranty for a year,
right,
everything.
we've only spent 46. Can we, of course, we're not, what's the deadline, or what's the startup time, you think, now on the 911 center?
I wish I could tell you that.
Well,
Because they've been beating that back and forth and on the radio, getting it up. So my concern is if we get into a new budget year and have not swapped over, which I'm hoping we will. Surely we'll at least be over there with the new console.
Yeah.
And still, we might
So
still
we'll
be
be on the
using.
old radio system.
Yeah,
still.
we still might be using that, and that's the only thing that I'm saying, we can probably reduce that some, but we're gonna have to, remember, we still have these other sites out here that we're running off of old stuff that's gotta be repaired.
Right. Well, and at one time.
That's not under me.
we're keeping the old radio
Yes.
with the idea that the commissioners could put them in their vehicles.
And use that
So-
commissioner channel that we have sitting out there with the
Right,
repeater.
so
Yeah.
we could always use this money if we have an issue with those, I mean, we'd.
Oh, I mean, we fix the
transfer them.
repeater with it, because
Yeah.
we fix all the repeaters out there, and that's including the commissioner's channel, the fire channel, because we gotta keep that, no matter what, at the end of the day, we gotta keep that VHS channel up for the fire department so where they can page. The 800, 700, 800 does not page, they're miniature pagers. Everybody has.
There's no pager made though.
No, it's just like their fire department, they're doing the same thing, they're keeping their VHS up to do that,
Yep.
so. And then we've got 3 other
Yeah,
offsites that does that.
They even had some, I mean, they're still doing it.
Yeah, they're still, they just don't make it to do it.
Yeah, they still have some.
So that's the only thing about that, and that's why we didn't reduce it. I mean, we could probably reduce it some, but I don't know these other sites, what happens, because the repeater gets stolen, that's $10,000. Which I hope it's not getting stolen, but we've been down that road before, where we've had them stolen.
Well, what do you say we cut it back on radio repair to 20,000?
Okay.
You get that, madam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Informant expense, look like we've,
Well, there should be another check coming pretty quick. We pretty well use that, that's for all our informants that we pay.
and that's,
And we
that's
use
about
it.
what we've been using.
Yes.
Like,
We
That-
use 15.
That is audited by me. I count it down and I look at the receipts, who they gave it to and what they spent it on.
Okay.
I have copies.
We get any of that informant money? Maybe the farming or something?
They might not want.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
I can inform him if it stays off the county road.
Do that.
You wouldn't burn as much gas either.
Yeah, we burn more gas, huh?
Investigative support services. What exactly is it? We had a big year in that 2014. Of course, that may have been the trial of the period.
Part of that, was part of the equipment that we bought in doing that. And normally we, run that 15,000.
That's like the search engines that we use for like leads online and things like that, to investigate, pay the, SANE exam, medical visits,
Right.
like sexual assault cases and stuff like that. which some of that we get reimbursed back from the state.
Right. Record service, anybody have any questions on investigative report? Record service, what is that for our vehicles?
For our vehicles and plus, anything we see, they gotta be told back to the department.
Okay.
And that varies, sometimes we spend close to that much, sometimes we don't, it just kind of varies, it depends what kind of year we're having.
Okay.
We're doing good on, farming expenses, and we're out there doing a lot, we'll wind up having a lot more record bills, but we try to drive them in. If it's capable of driving, we don't drive them in, but, the record bill is, and then if our cars are down in the county and our maintenance guy, we've got to try to go, we cut that as much as we possibly can when we can, just depending on the resources.
Yes.
Car hauler.
Miscellaneous.
We use this to see it.
Yeah. K-9 maintenance. Line 49.3.
K-9 is all our, animal, K-9 as far as feed, dog food, all the equipment they need, and this is for the K-9s that's on patrol. The 4 K-9s, so anything that dealing with them, their vet visit, start.
That's like down a little bit, I don't think it'll spend that much.
Yeah, it's down a little bit because, we retired last dog and haven't replaced one of
Yeah,
them,
that's what
so.
I think, yeah.
But normally we come fairly close of spending that.
But they have 3 instead of 4.
Yes, we've had to retire, remember when y'all
Yeah, no,
signed the
I
deal to
know.
retire,
Yeah.
right? So,
I'm just making sure that's what we have.
You'll replace that.
yes, sir, yeah, we'll have 4.
Animal control services, expenses.
That's all the animal controls and what y'all know as far as going out here, picking up stray dogs, expenses as far as taking them to the vet, the heads, and
Like
getting them examined, paying for all that stuff.
It's not like their gas and oil or
No,
something.
How come
that comes out of,
we spent such a small amount so far this year? Is it because the vehicles are new and all that kind of stuff? I mean, is all
No,
the
this
new
is-
and we're not buying as much?
This is not vehicle stuff.
this is all of the catch stuff they need, all the equipment they need, catch poles for anything from traps to that. And luckily, we bought quite a few last year, and we have.
Maybe the guys we have this year, don't tear it
Keep
up
up with
bad,
it.
they keep up with it.
And dog and food, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, and this is when we take them to the back and hold them for a short period of time, just feed them water, and pick them all up and take them all down. So,
I mean, that's a small amount.
Well, that's no.
and like I say,
Yeah, I'll
part of
pat it
that
back.
is, we hadn't had a full-time animal control like we've had the last, because we're down.
Yeah.
Some, so we've been playing that in and out. So that's been something that's been somewhat while we've been able to do the whole animal control like we normally do.
So we do not have 2
We,
now?
right now, we've got one sitting in there, but I mean, if something changes, we'll have to move him out. I mean, because on the 560 side, they're 10 short right now. So we're having to move around where we have to go. And when we get to positions, I'll show you which ones we're short, ones we're trying to do that.
But if we have an animal call, they're responding to it.
Yes. Yeah. If they're not on duty, a supervisor's gonna handle it. And whatever means is needed necessary, if we gotta pick up the truck, back at the station, and go take care of that, we're taking care of it.
So we're talking about animal, can we just kind of, we'll come back to the other, what is the animal control contract services?
That's gonna be the tool then.
That's-
That's the dog contract we have, nothing control over.
Turn that over, you let you figure it out.
I wouldn't like mine.
You've tried.
They wouldn't like mine, you know, control, so we're not gonna talk about that.
Yeah, we probably don't need to do that.
I can see some people on you that would sure like to talk.
Well, you know, I love animals,
And it is-
I just, you know,
But that's kind of varying.
I just wanted to make sure that's what that was.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
comes out of y'all's-
I
that
think
comes
we're getting
out of your
close, I
budget.
think Pam has helped us with the cat deal, to cut that down
Hopefully
too.
that'll slow down.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that's gonna,
Bottom line is, that's still a short-term, day-to-day operation, I think, down there.
Down the road, we're
Yeah, we're
gonna
gonna
straighten that
have to
out,
do
son, we
something.
gotta do something with that, there's no question, the cities and everybody else will
Yeah.
have to step up with us a little bit.
Yeah.
I think
We've
that's
tried,
enough.
we've tried to work with a different, we even talked to SPCA in Dallas. Pam has been out, I don't know how many hours trying to figure out something, And this, I mean, at least we got a place to carry them, but they, at one time, we were paying them, well, like, the year I got here, I think we were paying them like 80 or 85
I think it was
thousand.
85 at one time in budget. And then we dropped it, I think, yeah, because I think when you first got here,
Mhm.
and when we was up at
Oh,
85,
we
and we
went
got.
down, and y'all remember,
It is.
they had come and when we started the $65 per animal, and then the contract ran out or something, and they wanted $100. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're probably gonna be short this year, it looks like.
If the cat deal still holds, I think we'll probably stay right there.
What you'll have, though, you'll have, you know, a dog, 6,
That's it.
and $100 a pop, I mean, that's.
Doesn't take long, to burn up a lot of money.
All right, exchange cards.
And I think the easiest way to do that is go to the sheriff's department fleet tab,
Tab is,
the fourth tab.
Well, that's what you paid for it the last day.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing, I think when everybody get there,
What they have is
it's the fourth one down. There you go. Like I say, it's 8 vehicles, which 4 would be in patrol and which 4 is transport. We put the mileage on the transport vehicles down here, and I know they don't meet or exceed the deal on the vehicle as our policy states. But what we do with these transport vehicles, because they're all highway miles, these vehicles wind up going in patrol and supervisors, cars and stuff like that. That's where we utilize these. Also, sometimes we take one and move over into the jail that we have transport to the jail, because we've got some older jail calls over there. But we've gotta look at replacing our transport, it's very vital. That fleet of transport cars is getting older. We just had one break down on Ranger, and luckily we didn't have any inmates on it, so we loaded up a spare car, or a car that was working nights. We told them, we need to take it to, go pick up the prisoner and bring it back, and the car will be ready for it.
That's when you're going to Abilene.
Yes.
Pick up somebody.
So, I mean, our transport cars, we usually get a couple of years. Look like we've got a little more than a couple of years out of them, but it's very vital we keep a good fleet underneath him, because we're going out of state a lot of times with him, so.
Now, the 8 new ones, we got up the top, it says 4 transport and 4 patrol.
Yes.
Now what we ordered the other day?
We ordered 8 for patrol.
8
to replace some other 8
So what you're talking about here is 4.
4 for patrol and 4 in transport. Yes.
The transport vehicles, do they have to be outfitted like a patrol vehicle?
Pretty much, that's
I mean,
what we
they
try
have
to
have a
do.
Radio and.
We gotta have radio. The thing why we put cameras in them is because we move these cars over at the end of their service. But there's a lot of times when we go pick somebody up, and if it's a high-profile case or anything, they want a video of them coming back, because they might make a mistake. So that's why we do that. We need that camera system in there, in case something goes on.
And ours currently have the system in there now.
Yes.
Oh, you're asking for 8 more in addition to 8 that was there.
Yes.
These have not been put in service.
They should be here anytime this month, in the next couple of weeks. They have not received them.
And they're fully outfitted, ready
Yes.
to, it's ready to go.
When they get here, all we'll have to do is put a radio in them and put the emblems on, and they'll be on the street. In a week or 2, we'll have them on the road, swapping out 8 vehicles put over here to get rid of them.
On the 4 for transport, I mean, they would not necessarily have to be, tall.
Well, they wouldn't, but our scheme, the way we've been doing stuff is because we wanna replace them before they get to the mandated deal.
So they could be
Where
used as.
where we can move them over to patrol and still get a few more years out of them. That way, we're all in the same vehicle. If we go to something smaller than that, it's gonna be hard to put them over here in patrol. Unless we plan to
Wear them out, transport.
take the transport, and when we get to this mileage like this, that we believe you don't need to be going out of town in the 80,000, so we just get rid of them and replace them.
And the reason, I'm just curious, the reason we
we have to pull people out of the jail, because you gotta remember, we're doing federal transports also. So,
Yeah,
All
haul
they
them down
not
there.
use the bus, but they, big bus.
Not-
yeah, we're
not
doing right now,
fair.
but it's in the shop. So it's in the shop trying to.
Well,
get the
we're
brake.
all looking at using some of the, commissary funds to buy another van,
We're trying to get that worked out, me and Jack are in the process of getting that worked out.
but it won't be a big,
No, we
big
did.
It'll
van.
be a 12 to 14 passenger.
We do so many individual transports, not just going taking off
Yeah.
federal residents to Dallas, we do so many going out.
We're always picking up, we've got a list of all the time, we even use the night deputies sometimes when it slows down, we've got 24 hours to pick up some of these class Cs that we have from DP. And either we pick them up 24 hours or they release them, but it don't make sense not to go pick them up and they have to reissue the warranty, waste a lot of time and effort. So what we try to do is get them picked up, and sometimes we're lucky enough that the deputy can run through real quick, just like they're in Dallas, pick them up, break by. But we've got transport running all the
I mean, like a trip to Abilene, that's pretty well full day.
Oh, it's a full day, especially when we go out of state. We go out of state a lot and pick these prisoners up.
Well, when you go out of state, when you just have one prisoner, you don't ever think about this. Get an airline ticket, go pick him up.
It's cheaper to drive because you can't, you know, if you're gonna save any money on airlines, you gotta do advanced purchasing. Well, we don't know when we're gonna.
You gotta go to a special school and get trained to fly,
Fly.
and carry a gun, and all airlines don't want inmates on there.
A lot of them
So
don't.
many rules, you gotta, it's just easy, take off a little bit.
I wondered how if they worked with you on
The
that.
easiest way would probably just hire a pilot and buy our own plane. Then you could do that.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
either that or,
They didn't be in Panama City all day.
Yeah, just buy a helicopter. There you
I don't
go.
know, I hadn't ridden on Greyhound in a long time, but that might be a possibility.
Greyhound?
Greyhound.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm being a little facetious.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, I just, I just didn't realize you used that many, I didn't think about it.
And you gotta remember too, transport officers also bring them up here for court every day. So, I mean, it's,
What's the first thing that comes to mind? Bring
Yeah.
it to the courthouse. Usually you see two.
What's the-
yeah, and you gotta remember, we gotta pick up all these class threes above for any holding facilities, Forney and Terrell, we've gotta go pick them up, so we've gotta pick them up every day and make our circle. If they don't bring them to us, we have to go pick them up on next block. So that's another mandate by the county.
That's right.
Local government code that says, hey, we're responsible for taking care of it, so.
Be neat if you could pay them $25 for something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Is that a possibility?
I doubt it. We can talk to them, but I don't think they're, only time we get them
It's
is
totally up to
when,
them, though.
Yeah.
They say no, it's no.
a big problem that we have is, we'll get them sometimes, it's because that individual is a major problem. They don't want to deal with it, so they're gonna make, yeah, and they wanna bring them over here. That, when they bring them over here, we know something's up, we need to be looking.
Check them out.
We're in
Take them to
trouble.
the hospital.
They're just doing it out of goodness over there.
And nothing against them.
So you need to find sale by itself, huh? Really quick.
But the 8 that you got coming are all patrol, and they
Yes.
will help a great deal where you are now.
Yes.
Okay.
And those 4 transports, it wouldn't be, I know you want to use them in patrol, but if they're really just running up and down the street on pavement, and knocking rims and all that kind of stuff, you don't think we'd buy something that actually gets a whole lot better gas mileage and be able to just burn that car up on doing that? When it gets 100 and something thousand miles on it, 150 or whatever, trade it in. I mean, I don't know, I just wondered if the.
My deal is when they get around 80, 75,000, we need to start looking at replacing them going out of state. I mean, because that's when you start beginning to have issues.
How often do you have more than one vehicle going out of state?
It varies. I mean, 2, mostly at the most.
But out of counties every day.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
It might, like
Big
stay down,
traffic, yeah.
or when you go out of county, are they, destinations mainly just the surrounding county?
No.
Or are they a lot?
no, there are a lot.
Three or four
And then
counties.
in our TDC, we're always taking somewhere, somebody who's been sentenced to TDC somewhere, every other week. So, that's telling wherever they want to go.
The thing about the Tahoes, if we use them up, you know, as far as transport, and we can move them on patrol, still get another 2 years out of them. So we give them supervisors for, you know, basically using around, make sure everybody doing it right, you know.
Well, my own reason, I'm good, and I'm certainly not questioning, y'all deal with this every day, but my deal was kinda like Steve said, if you find something a little cheaper to operate. And initially, the cost might not be quite as much, but, I understand what you're saying as well. I guess the worst thing that happened to you, you may have had this happen, is you go off somewhere, you get a prisoner and start heading back, and the car breaks down. Well, that's not a good situation. Now, I'm sure you have, wherever you are, I'm sure you can call and get somebody to come pick you up or something, or the agency.
Usually you've got to call and work with other law enforcement around there, and luckily, we've got a good relationship in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And we can usually get somebody to help us, to do that. But then again, you gotta get a resource out there to get that individual out. So,
All right, what are these vehicles down at the bottom then?
these are all the vehicles that we're planning to replace with them.
Okay, these
We're
are the ones
allowed-
that will be,
Yes,
when the new ones get in and they're put into service, these will be.
we've got that list on that's the other list that we did a while back. But we'll have I think we'll have probably maybe up to 10 before it's said and done.
These Ford Tauruses, you got 2 of them there.
Yes.
Both of them are out of service according to your.
Yes.
What's wrong with them? Something major or apparently it is, we'll have.
Yeah, most of them, with that one, that's 185,000. Is out of service.
No,
Yeah.
it's Crown Vic,
Just the
no,
one.
69.
Yeah, the one is out of service, just the one.
Well, it's 111, that's why you don't buy Ford, they don't go anywhere.
69 shows that it's out of service and 57.
Is a Taurus with 111.
Shit, we stopped at
Both of them go out of service.
Probably does.
I got 234 miles on this one. It's not.
Last time we said, we're going downtown, I'm saying about that.
See, it's new.
They don't know about that.
Ford fix or repair that.
Yeah, no, that's.
And it might have, they just back it up.
This one is.
I'm gonna go back there and show them the numbers.
I think
This one here.
And those are senior vehicles, I see.
No, they should be. They're a county car. No, it's red. Well, that should be red, because I can tell you, we bought all them Tauruses in '06, so this,
57 top, yeah, 56.
they're county cars. They're not seizures, they are county.
Use more gas.
They have not held up. Good.
When you're putting.
I'm telling you, Ground Vic was the car.
I guess really the old picture will, we can trouble with young ones.
Yeah.
Oh, I was saying, here's why I didn't get the 6 on the engine and the miles, try to get the 5.3, that's one. Each one we go ahead and say 5.3, but it's the engine.
Yeah, that's why we've done this. We've had good luck there, everybody else has had good luck. And like I say, these cars are not getting, I mean, about the same as the Crown Vic. Gas per mile. We're gonna get about anywhere from 14 to 15. That's all you get with Crown Vic. You got about the same.
Don't make it too late, but that. Drive with it. Okay, so we get everything answered on the vehicle?
I got one more question, 5.3 liter V8 that they get in these cars, is that common, is that what all the?
That's just what I used to.
Yes,
What they call it?
Pursuit, right,
All of them
yes.
have that?
Yes.
None of them have the 6.0?
No need. That looks like a rose.
Yeah. And it's holding up good for us. Like I say, we've had that one, but I mean, you're gonna have one every once in a while. I don't care how many you get.
So this next page on over is the one that's got all the yellow and red and blue and green.
That's the breakdown of all the vehicles. What we've got, the new ones that's coming in, the numbers they'll be. And then on
Some
the
of
back.
these are seizure vehicles.
Yes, sir, that is correct. Yeah, I think it's red on that list, but they're not on that list.
Yeah, this
I'm
one.
reading that list, it's wrong.
So the red is seizure.
I see some lady driving that little bitty car around, I think.
Yeah, that's our smart car, that's the one with secretary coming up here and
You're getting
all
mad.
the local money, yeah. And that seems to work out really well.
Yeah.
You can find a parking spot pretty easy.
Really?
I got one of these found on, but one of those parking out here. It's so bad all the time.
We just get that and put it out here. What do you mean?
I don't
That's
think,
that's a car we own.
I might get in it, but I don't think I'll get out.
That's what I'm saying, wait a minute, you're gonna get skin on it.
Yeah, we've got,
No, I'll tell you what, they're bigger on these than you think they are.
Really?
with our fleet, we've been pretty well running with six vehicles, and like I say, we try to use, as much as we can in CID and all the other special operations that have to do, we try to fund that out of that if we can get that done. And it just varies on the type of individual we're dealing with. Some of them we don't want to be in, the other ones, some of them got some decent vehicles.
So when we call them, we
Yeah.
lay down.
On the vehicles, number, unit 5,
On red, that's a Caesar car.
Yes.
You can't do anything with it. This is not driving.
Warnock, he's in the jail.
Yes, sir.
He's not driving that though.
Isn't that the one the sheriff drove down to Austin? and-
No, so that one is no longer on here, we're selling that one, that's the one the motor blew up in.
Yeah, he might not have made it back.
Yeah, he had a bad day.
Yeah.
You don't wanna talk about that, yeah, I'd go pick him up.
And then, 39, 40, 42, those are,
They're all jail cars.
that's your transport.
No, so that's all the cars assigned to jail for our, jailers to take them to the hospital and stuff like that. And they're just all assigned to her, and the reason why she keeps up with the law, so when we turn them in, so we assign one. Then we Captain Compton to make sure that's done.
In 54, 56,
That's our civil, that's the cars they use to go serve papers.
86 and 87, those have 0 miles on them, right?
0 mile?
For the month, brother?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think 86 is the canine spare.
Yeah,
says our service.
Yeah, that's the one,
Yeah,
the
it's
motor's
down.
messed up.
And, 86 is the spare canine.
And I think we've applied for a grant for another.
We've tried a couple times, we haven't received it yet, but yes, we're,
I think Pam Jill's pretty good at it.
she does.
Oh, this one? Okay.
But, I mean, that doesn't mean anything, you know.
Yeah.
Right?
I never know.
The only thing different, if you look at 84, that's Salcedo, that's canine officer.
It says spare, but, yeah, but it should say Salcedo.
And then 85 is for the new canine officer that we're gonna get. We haven't replaced him yet.
I know a lot of these have got, like 2,300 miles, 1,400 miles in 4 months. There's like number 16, it says trade-in, I guess, it's 09 Vic. It hadn't had 200 miles in 4 months.
Yeah, that's, if you notice, most of these trade-ins are the ones when we get this 8 that we mark to get rid of.
The 8 that you got coming.
That,
already?
yes, sir, the ones that are coming in, yes, sir.
So that will eliminate 8 that are on.
Oh, yeah, yes, sir. If not, like I said, I'm thinking when we get through, we'll have 10.
Okay.
Because I think we're gonna wind up, we're still keeping this 141 for parts, because it's still got some good parts on it, and trying to get them parts, so that's the only car I think we're planning to keep out there, because that has worked out well for us, because it saved us quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, I know, we've had this discussion now for several years, 2 or 3 years, about, weaning some of these cars off. And I know we have fewer cars now than we did, and so I appreciate the effort in getting that done.
And I think part of this is, and I know everybody, you gotta have cars almost every year, especially talking with Kelly, who's wanting to, apparently, I think, move some cars over this way. I think for the courthouse or somewhere he was talking about, I think y'all was all talking about right now, everything we're getting, Jack can pretty well contest to it, that it's pretty well wore out. I don't think many people would be driving this year. So, and I think if that's what we're looking at and we've been talking about in the past, is trying to cycle that through, that's the way we're gonna get there, is doing that.
They won't make this auction cycle, I guess, will they, Jack?
No, but we'll do a quick turnaround.
That's what we've talked about.
Renee Bates has pictures, I hand delivered all that stuff. That'll be online here for the next few days, but we'll do the next batch when those come in.
So this is as soon as those come in, I think he's handling that, we've already got our personnel plan to get all this stuff together and get it over, and we'll get a good turnaround and get that other auction going, so we can get some more revenue coming back into the general fund and get rid of these old cars. No, no more. I guess the only thing we have to,
The skid steer.
that's skid steer,
Yeah.
and which you still probably got, I don't know if it's still there, is it? That old skid steer? Yeah, you still using it?
Used it once.
It's like, yeah, this is one of those little bitty, small, old ones. We see that.
Yard.
Yeah, it's not much of it, it's not like here.
Pick up that louder thing. Okay, any other questions on the sheriff's budget?
I got one more on that vehicle, 152, for Dr. Davis.
Yes.
Does he do something outside of the jail?
He's called in on a regular basis. He's just like this weekend where he does all our stuff in the jail, mental health. And he is doing all of our evaluations, just like we had one this weekend that was not. He needed medical, do his blood sugar, he was going downhill. They called him in, he comes in on a regular basis and meets with him. And with him giving our evaluation, we wind up giving him the course if it falls under 1622. But he is called on requisition, which he did a good job assisting with, because we got him to eat, we got him to check his blood sugar, and we didn't have to take it off.
When we bring somebody in the jail, you have to evaluate every one of them.
We evaluate every one of them. We have a nursing staff that does right things.
That's part of it.
Yes, yes, when they come in there, they're evaluated before we even take them.
That's pretty neat having somebody be able to jump right there.
I'm telling you, we're very.
That's the first thing I like.
Yeah, and he's called in on a regular basis, and which he also, I think, will. Because it's fuel man card.
Where does he live?
Yeah, we don't pay him all the time.
I think right on the edge of Hunt County. That's why, if you'll notice, we gave him the most efficient car there.
Other than the small
It's
car?
yeah, it's a little bitty, I think it's getting better. I don't think he likes it, but, you know, our deal was, we needed that doctor on call, and it was the most efficient vehicle to put in.
Gets you from point A to point B.
That's it. I've never griped about anything.
That's it. Well, I'd rather ride him more.
Yes.
All day long. Okay, other questions? I'm trying to, just got a text from Judge Smith, he's gone home, and he's sick, so he won't be here today, so we've got a little more time. So, you wanna go on in, do you have any other questions about the sheriff's budget, or we ready?
Well, the only thing is the positions is the last half, positions and salaries. It's kind of, we still have the same number of positions. You know, we have the 93 positions, but we budgeted 85. The other ones come out of the 562, which is SRO, and then the 564, which is the windmill farm. The one thing that we have worked on doing is we have 10 openings. You'll notice, I know y'all we had 4 lieutenants on patrol. You'll notice now that is moved down to 2 shift patrol lieutenants. We made 1, and then we moved 1 down to a sergeant, which also saves some money. So we've done that, and which I think it's helped us a lot better. And we've done the same thing on the jail side.
What is you have 10 vacancies now?
Yes, sir. We
On-
have, if
on-
you look
on the sheriff's side?
Yes, sir, just on the sheriff's side.
And that's because they're just hard to fill, or?
No, the problem is we're not getting good at it. We get our biggest problem right now is our base pay is somewhat competitive, but they have nowhere to go. The person that come here 4 years ago is making the same thing that the person is walked in the door with, and this person is training.
It's not a problem getting, it's just a problem keeping them. We've discussed that.
Yeah, we're not gonna keep them long.
Longevity.
I'm telling you, 2 years, and they're gonna find somewhere else to go, because
And we
the
get
experience
them
they get here, in which, the next time we meet, we'll have a little better breakdown, because we're working on that in the time frame that we got this. I couldn't tell you exactly how much we're spending on an individual to get them trained, but we'll have that breakdown. 5 communication training officers, 14 communication officers, 1 warrants, and 2 records and warrants.
So what did you lose? Just, telecommunications?
Yes, 2
No
telecommunications.
sergeants, corporals, or lieutenants, or anything?
No,
And when you say sergeants, corporals, lieutenants, are these police officers, or are these just
these are telecommunications
And you're just
supervisors.
giving them status as sergeants and lieutenants?
Their title is supervisor. Yes. A sergeant is over the whole shift.
So everybody basically in the 911 is just, they're not deputies carrying
No,
guns, they're,
they're licensed telecommunications.
well, that's all.
Okay.
And then the windmill farm, is easy on that.
And we will generate, I believe, approximately $500,000 in fees from the other agencies, is that right? 4 or 5?
I believe that's correct, Judge. I hadn't looked at it.
So we'll need to be sure to budget that on the revenue side.
Still going.
Yep, all of that.
I'll need those numbers so
I'll
I
give
can
it.
do it.
Okay. I'll give that copy to you.
All right.
And right now, everybody's participating, with the exception of 20, I understand.
That is
Well,
my understanding. Everything is,
He's fixing that budget stuff for me,
If
I'll give it to you.
you'll give me that, and I'll
We're gonna work on
produce,
that, okay?
okay.
He's on it.
Had something, the board. We won't assemble this board for the 911, it's gonna kind of oversee it,
The advisory board.
Right, the board and all that, we're not gonna assemble that until they actually sign the contract, right?
Right, I'm hoping we'll get something going for you on, because that's a big step.
Because
We need to get our-
everybody,
we need to
because
get
we need to get that going.
Well, the advisory board is very important, because,
I know.
yes, we have good operations and guidelines to go by right now, but what we do does not always fit these cities.
That's
So we need them on board, where we can get our standard operating procedures going to make sure that these telecommunications start getting it right off the bat. We need to educate them, we've got to train them on how we're gonna have to do some of this city. So, that's something that we've got to get going, because that,
One other thing, if there's any bypass going in, we're going back to this one, it'll be okay with the things, or what happened there.
as far as I know, I think it's all right, that's something.
Nobody said that.
Yeah. It's good with all the trees and stuff at this point, but I don't know what, that's something.
I guess folks say something, you want me to go out and
Well, Judge, do we have about
round up?
another million we can
No,
borrow
I
with
guess,
that?
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
if you want to.
because we gotta qualify twice a year, and it's mandated.
I done go up to the Terrell Lane,
Yeah.
actually go down on 205.
Yeah, they got a nice one down there now, I see.
It's been underwater.
Yeah. Gun
That's
club, yeah.
I never seen anybody out there though, I don't know when they shoot.
By the way, that was another one, the Rockwall Gun Club, that had not been picked up for, rollback taxes. It has been now, so that,
Well, we've been looking at it a long time.
Yeah.
Somebody talking
I
about
don't think anybody from the Prater District, will recognize
it.
it.
Yeah, rock all that plenty of money.
So, that's the kind of thing, on things like that you just see, just,
Yeah, but you gotta understand,
Let 'em know.
people are pretty smart to put that in up there. All these people that paid that $3,000, they paid it now, they're all responsible for their gun club. The guys that actually have the gun club out of Houston started this, they don't have any liability in this deal.
All the
You
members
see,
have.
where I'm at right now, I've
Really?
had some discussions with them because they went in there and they filled in that area up there by the moor fence where they're gonna do that other, municipal utility district one of these days, the mower farm up there on 205. So they're backing water up on my county road
Yeah.
and up to the mowers. So we're,
That's what they charge for membership,
the 3,000.
Okay, that's one other thing that, I need to provide you with, is I don't know what we're doing and I've talked to Mark about this, we've gotta look at buying 2 more lawnmowers down the road. So, I've got you prices there, cause that's not in my budget line item, you have, that's our,
I mean, if you do that, you cut the other stuff for it
That the grasshoppers that we use.
yes, sir, and if you're, we have had good luck with grasshoppers.
Yes.
We have had them since 2001. They've been gas. We've already replaced the decks in both of them and motors in both of them halfway through there, but they're about gone again. And we went over and looked at them, and that front mower out front is a lot better. You can work on it a lot easier. It tilts up, keeping the blade sharp. And then the other thing, the diesel motor. I think the regular gas one is 2,500 hours is what they're expected it to last, the motor and all, where the diesel is 7,500. So I think it'd be well worth looking at the diesel. It's like 9,000 and 12,000.
Well,
But I think if you look at it, you'll get 3 times more out of it in an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's get with,
Well, I know I don't do that part, but I need to bring it because we always go through that line item, but it's not ours, but.
yeah, but that's something we can get with Jeff and Karen and see if we can make it work. You gotta have something that.
Yeah, we've gotta have something to keep going.
So,
Maybe if it'll dry up, maybe we can get caught up, because we're behind.
Get some of the tracks.
Maybe we'll get a week. All right, I know Judge Adams is here, but Judge, can we take a break?
Thank y'all very much, we appreciate your time. Y'all have any questions, let me know. Thank y'all.
Waiting on us to get here.
Need what? Yeah, don't need that.
Okay, thank you, KW.
We can get 100, we can get 100.
I'm glad to be here.
Another 120 gig? Yeah, that's.
Thanks for sticking around.
So we need to order another one.
Just to talk
Okay,
to me.
cool.
I believe you have paperwork from JP4 in front of you, and we've got 2 line items, or 1 line item on there for furniture. Even though we might not use it, we still want to get it in there. We had back one in 2007, and we took it out because we just didn't use it, I believe. Also asking on the extra help, I know you're not supposed to ask for money, but this lady is very valuable to me in the office staff. She only works like 12 hours a week, and I could really utilize her a lot more. So I'm asking on a $2,000 increase in her salary, which brings it up to $8,000. As you can tell, we did a Texas roundup, and we could have used her a lot more when we were doing that. We do everything we can to stay within our budget as far as office supplies, miles, meals, lodging, training, education. In fact, when I go to school and when the ladies go to school, they grab every free pen they can, but we don't have to go buy a pen. Trust me, that's a true story. We do. And those too.
I do the same thing with my grandkids get mine,
Yeah. I don't think there's any surprises here. We're gonna do a study for you and meet with you the next time. All the JPs are gonna meet with you on a study that we're conducting. And Judge Wood has a little more insight on that. And I guess you could bring that up at another time. Also,
Well, we can go ahead and talk about it. We've met with, let's see, Judge Ashcroft, Judge Smith, who was sick, was not able to get here, and then Judge Barton is on Lulu or something.
On vacation.
Yeah, she's on vacation. And so I guess you're the second JP that we talked to today since Judge Smith didn't show up. I met last Friday with the judges, and they really do work together well. I mean, that is such a refreshing to see that they do work together, and they communicate well, and they cover for each other whenever one's out of town, whatever. So that's very good. One of the things we talked about was the inquest thing that we already heard a little bit about, and how to maybe make that better. And what I've asked them to do is, my understanding that some of the JPs in other counties do not do inquests. They're done by either another, it has to be a judge that does it,
Yes.
but it's another position, or they don't do magistration. They're done, either.
They don't work the jail.
Right, they don't work the jail. And so I've asked him to kind of put us together a little, comparison page just to see where we are I know, it was interesting to me to hear that, how many times they are up and about, in inquest times, and I know those are some, those are pretty big deals to deal with, but I've asked them just to put together for us some information on salaries as well as duties and responsibilities. No promises made other than just looking at that, kind of looking to see where we are.
Well, of all the judges in Kaufman County, only 4 JPs do all the inquests for Kaufman County. And that's days, nights, holidays, weekends, you name it, we're on call. And this last month, I had 7 deaths. And let me ask you this, would y'all like to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning looking at someone dead? Because I got 1 o'clock, 1:15, 7 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I mean, it ruins your night when you have to do that. But I enjoy doing what I do. I'm not saying I like to go out on death, but this is what I ran for, to serve my community. And I hate it when people say he's a politician. I'm not a politician. I hate that word. I'm a public servant, just like you gentlemen are. And everyone else in this county, we're public servants. But I really enjoy doing this, and I work with 3 other outstanding JPs because we never gripe to each other about anything. And we help each other when we're out sick or on vacation, just about any time we can. We trade dockets. We go and work in other JP dockets when they cannot hear a court case for some reason or another. We help Mike out at the Terrell State Hospital on mental health hearings. Not as much as I'm sure he'd like us to, but we still help him out. And he just backs us up every time. And Tricia does too, and Mary Barton does too. But we like what we do, and like I said, did you talk to Judge Ashcroft, or did she bring up the part about the autopsy?
Yes.
Y'all did discuss that?
Yeah, give us kind of your take on that so they can hear.
Well, we kind of discussed it with Judge Wood last Friday. The MD's office in Dallas is very expensive. And we have to send them on an unattended death. Or if it's a murder, suicide, whatever, we still have to send them. But it's my understanding that this other company in Mesquite that does autopsies is a lot cheaper. If they're not going to have to go to court or trial on anything like a murder suicide, but it's just an unattended death, unexplained death. And they will come and pick up that person at a much cheaper rate than we're paying funeral homes right now. Of course, now we still use the medical examiner's office for the other kind, the murder, suicide, everything else, in case that does go to trial. The other place in Mesquite is not equipped for that. But it's my understanding, I think Judge Barton said, a lot of these people that work in his office work there. You know that?
Well, they are certified to do autopsies that will hold up in court.
I think we tried to get this passed one time, and the sheriff and the DAs were against this because of the testifying in court. And, because we did do a study.
I think before, when y'all tried to get that passed one year before, the only little bit of problem you had with it was on the weekend, they got a little pricey because they didn't wanna do something on the weekend except hold them. And I guess that was
Was it just as high as the medical examiner's office?
no, the Mesquite, I think was the problem was that, I could be totally wrong, but I believe it was that they held them for a couple of days, and you know what happened when they tried to examine them after 2 days, so the evidence goes away. So that you'd have to be really careful what went there, especially on weekends.
Yes.
I mean, I think that was some of the issue.
Did she discuss also the problem we're having with the funeral home?
Yeah,
We talked about that.
in fact, the day that, the little girl in Pointing, he talked to the judge, talked to everybody. I mean, I think everybody in the country knows about it, but I mean, and that.
To be honest, since 2007, I have hardly a problem with funeral homes getting there on a timely basis, except one time we had to wait 45 minutes. I think that's the longest I've ever had to wait. Or if you call one funeral home, he can't because he's doing a service, or you have to call someone else. But I have a real good rapport with all the funeral homes, and they really jump at it when I do say something.
What we talked about, maybe we're gonna try to get together with the JPs and the funeral homes.
Yes.
Just talk about what could make it work better or smoother, but I do think that case was kind of an unusual situation.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think that's everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that, even at the
I guess on some of the suicide, there's always, you know, if you watch this,
CSI.
Dateline or CSI or, you know, one of those shows, you know, there's always, maybe they didn't commit suicide, maybe it was a cover-up or something like that. Early, Judge Wiley was in here when we discussed that this morning, and I think her feeling was that certainly on a homicide or maybe, some suspicious death or something.
Yes, sir.
She would prefer to continue sending them to the Dallas County Medical.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
But on some of these maybe unattended deaths, like now on the hospice, we're talking about something that's not much, you know, it's not pleasant to talk about, but it's the real world. But on a hospice, you don't have to go to those, do you? Because they can announce.
You still have to be notified of every death in the county.
Okay.
And that's hospice, hospitals, any death in Kaufman County, they have to notify JP.
Okay.
And those are the ones at 1, 2, and 3 o'clock in the morning. But
You don't have to go.
No.
But you don't have to go out.
No.
No, I don't think so.
And Judge Ashcroft does go to the nursing home in Forney because her mother's lives
Right.
there.
No, I know.
But we don't go to nursing homes either.
Yeah, no, she goes
Unless
there quite a
it's
bit.
suspicious.
But if you have an unattended death that is at home, which was unexpected, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
How do you handle those now? Do you?
Well, I had a 50-year-old, was found, deceased in a trailer, and she was on like 2 medicines. And we sent her for an autopsy because there was no foul play or anything, but nobody
Really understood.
no one could tell us what killed her, so.
Yeah, I mean, you honestly don't know if the jobs are taking care of them, or
But
they
nine
decide
times
that they don't want to be there.
Judge, Commissioner, I
Yeah.
don't see it unless it's suspicious.
Right. Well, I mean, totally understand.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? We talked about the fines and fees were down a little bit the other day when we had our meeting.
Yes, sir.
And, I know everybody's doing everything they can to get those, up and,
Get them up.
but, get the fees up, I mean, get them collected, I mean, you know.
Well, I don't guess it's any secret, Judge, but, we did talk with Purdue at the last school I went to. Of course, I know Dan Romo, I've known him forever when he was linebacker. And, I like Jeff Branham, I do, but it just sounds like Purdue's got a better shake at it. That's just my opinion from what Dan Romo tells me. They're not as big as Lineberger, and they spend more time trying to get this for the JPs or the courts. So I don't know if we're going to jump on that bandstand or not, but Mike and I have talked a little bit about it.
Well, as a court, we've not really discussed it because we kind of left it up to the JPs.
Well,
So they get to pick who you want to, for your election?
Well, the court has to, it's a contract, so the court would have to approve it, of course, you know.
Okay.
But I think maybe Ken said something to Mike, you know, about Purdue.
I know in the two that they're doing at Part 9, Precinct 1 and Precinct 2, they probably had some low hanging fruit in those because they have not been handled, well over the last, because they were with the other company,
McCreary.
McCreary, and then there were some issues with them, I think, for sure.
Well, I don't have a problem with Jeff Brown and Lineberger, it's just if there's another company out there that's hungrier that will produce more income for the courts.
Is that the one that's doing Patricia and them now?
Purdue. Yeah.
They did have McCreary.
Yeah.
And in fact, at one time, they had Linewater, and then a couple of years ago, they went with McCreary, and then we went with, Purdue.
Can you opt out of that contract within 30 days if you want to? You pull Purdue in, and they don't do what you think they're gonna do.
I'm sure you could.
Yeah, I'm sure they're.
I think that's the way it is with Lineberger.
My understanding, it's up to you guys, but the whole thing's kind of strange to me, you know, the short version on that is, we bid that thing out about 2 years ago. The committee chose Linebarger as the best selection offer. There were some that wanted it divided up into 2 groups. And so it was determined that it was, you know, that you guys had the choice of that. And so they went to McCreary. I don't have a dog in it, I don't care who you got to use, but I find it funny, you go to McCrary, and I've never seen anybody from McCrary ever come to court and give a report.
Yeah.
The one I ever see come to court is Linebarger.
Yeah.
And so now, we're gonna switch from Linebarger to Purdue.
I'm just saying,
It's
Jack,
it's a professional service from what I understand, but, you know,
it is, it is.
but if we're gonna bid it out, and we're not gonna stick to it, then I'm out on that deal. I'll let you guys, decide who you're gonna use, but
Who sits on that committee?
I'm talking, we bid it out last time, we bid the whole thing out.
I'm not saying we're gonna do it.
Oh, I know,
Jack.
I'm just saying.
I'm just listening to everything that they.
And I agree, that's y'all's choice, but it puts us in a weird position when we go through the process,
Gotcha.
that we're not gonna stick to it. So if you
Well,
want to,
I think Dan Romo was the one that said, if you don't like us,
I think it's a way with all of them. I know there's gotta be a way out on Linebarger. If they're not doing a good job, I'm sure there's a language in there to get out.
again, I don't have a problem with Jim Brown.
Yeah.
But if there's something that would increase it,
Oh,
I mean, I don't
I
know,
like
I'm
to try.
not there for it.
I agree. I don't know what happened to Prairie. They're supposed to be the best thing in town.
Like I said,
They do a good job. I don't know.
I know
They do a good
precinct
job.
1 and 2's revenues have come up
well, that's what
in
Judge Wood
comparison
said.
to what they had been.
Low hanging fruit.
Yes.
How many, how far behind are they on grades?
I couldn't tell you that. It's just been like, for the last 2 or 3 months.
Has anybody, here's what I'll suggest, normally what you do is you call a vendor in.
Yeah.
I send a letter out or what on behalf of whatever, and say, here's the issue. You got X amount of days to clean it up.
Well, we need to know how many cases, how many,
A lot of it is.
yeah, we need to know some statistics here so we know what.
I could probably get that to you the next time I meet, because, Leona is on vacation, my chief clerk is out. And,
Well, if we could get that from all 4 JPs, well then, we could say, okay, you're 33% behind, and the other company's only 10% behind.
Right.
On that report the other day, and
I think we kinda get something like that.
the other day, that report right there, in Linebarger, it should have said a minus, not a plus, remember?
right,
Yeah.
yeah, there it is. Yeah.
And, so I guess they were behind and the other one was ahead.
But again, I think it's first, a new company coming in, and they're really gonna strive
And work hard.
to make harder. So,
I think there's some counties that may use one firm for delinquent taxes and another firm for fines and fees,
Yeah.
you could,
But it's like, no shop car insurance or something, and they all that, they run over you.
Keep
I
in
know,
mind.
I know when I was the accounting manager for Linebarger in Houston, some of their biggest clients were school districts, and that's who they really worked for, was the
Where
school.
the big bucks.
Pardon me?
That's where the big dollars
yeah,
are.
that's where the.
Yeah.
well, Lineberger has no that guys do.
Well, I know,
Yes, sir.
Forney ran them off, they got upset with them, I don't know why.
I think everybody has them in the county except maybe Thorny, and I don't know whether they're going back with them or not, I heard the word, I don't know for sure. Yeah, but they collect a lot of money, but.
Yes, sir, they do.
But the big money is in the delinquent taxes. I mean, that's the ones that they really get on. But we're collecting right at 98% of our taxes, and that's pretty doggone good. Really, when you get right down to it. But anyway, we did have that discussion, and everybody's kind of been aware of it. But I think at this point in time, that JP's want to kind of come back with a.
Well, Mike and I are gonna talk a little bit more about it before we jump off the deep end and say, yes, we can do that. But we'll
I know Judge Barton and Judge Ashcroft are pretty.
I'm gonna get, Leon to pull all this stuff, or you maybe I can have it the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll get it to you.
This doesn't tell you how many cases.
No, it doesn't.
All that tells you
It's
is
just
your
percentage.
comparison year to year.
Yeah.
So what I need to make a decision if somebody's failing or not is to say how many cases are open. It's not collected in 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you can compare who's working and who's not. Because all that is a year-to-year comparison.
A little quick story about that, and I'll move on, but when I got here in 2011, one of the things we were seriously behind on was fines and fees. They just had gone down. And, come to find out, we had, the court had entered into an agreement with Linebarger back a year or two ago, but it had never been implemented. And so we weren't doing anything on trying to collect fines and fees, even with an existing contract. And so we got that up and going and finally got it. And that's the reason, if you go back to 2011 and, 2012, you see a big increase in fines and fees, but people were just not, we're just not being notified. So anyway, that's a little short story.
Gentlemen, do you have any more questions for me?
Bless you.
Oh, good. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. All right.
Appreciate it.
Next.
See you later.
Mrs.
Karen.
McLeod.
I can, I'm up next.
One thing on this furniture,
We gotta figure out something, yeah,
either take all the furniture line items out, or all the jack, and then need something.
yeah, that's kind of what we're doing.
Each facility is different, some got old stuff, some got new stuff.
Well, and that's what we had done, I think. That particular one, all of them, in fact, all of them. And that's what created.
Okay. I didn't go for that information, Commissioner Phillips, I just wanted to call it to your attention. 2013, we had taxes receivable, net of allowance for doubtful counts, owed to the county, a little over $2 million. Remember that? When we had that trouble trying to get the reports. Accounts receivable, which would be any money owed to it, is 1.5. So there's about $3.5 million sitting out there that hasn't been collected.
In fines and fees, not
Yes.
taxes, but fines.
Yeah, the taxes is 2.
Yeah. We got board of fines and fees, you want to do it in taxes.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I remember George had to run us that report.
That's fines and fees.
Yeah.
Is that just from JP or is that from district court too?
It's primarily JP,
Yeah.
yeah. On
And
the
you
fines,
have it broke down
And
into
if you'll recall, I think it was Constable Precinct 3, Stevens, in his letter to y'all for his budget, I think he said he had like over 5,000 warrants that needed to be served. I remember, Constable Precinct 1 said they had boxes and file cabinets full that needed to be served to generate money, revenues, and get things off the books. But I remember George, there was nobody that could run the report, and George got on the old system and pulled those numbers for the outside audit to know what was owed by everybody, and if some of them were so old that we need to write them off as a bad debt. And George and I argued with him, if people owe us money and they get stopped somewhere else and there's a warrant issued for them, we don't need that wrote off the books. We need to keep that so we get that money.
Well,
Yeah, but on the other hand, if they've been running around 2 or 3 years and they thought, well, that ticket or whatever it is been forgiven, and then all of a sudden they get stopped in another state, get arrested, they're not gonna be very happy.
they're
Call the county, sit on their hands.
They're not gonna get
2 or 3
arrested in
years.
other states, we're not gonna go get them for a traffic ticket.
Well,
Now,
it might be
this,
held.
this report I gave y'all, it says 6/2015. It's not. It's May, because we don't post the JP or the constable revenues till the end of the month when we write the checks out of those bank accounts. So it's really as of May. But both of them are really below what we had budgeted to come in so far.
Both of them? Yeah.
All 4 of them.
All four. That's it. That's it.
A lot of money.
okay, we're ready for you.
Only thing I asked for was an increase in the mileage, meals, and lodging of $200 and training for $200, since the cost of sending employees and myself to get training that we require, that we have to have. Otherwise, I left everything the same.
Okay. questions of the auditor? Yeah. While while you're thinking, and while Jack and Karen are both in here, let's go back to this issue on the furniture that we got in, to a little bind about earlier this year, and we heard Judge Adams ask for $1,000. Remind me what we're doing on that now, either one of you. I think nobody else has a furniture budget, do they?
They were all taken out of their budget and put in one big line item.
Right, that Jack has.
In 409. Well, in a way, that's okay, but in many other ways, it's really not okay, because if a larger department comes in and they need 17, 18 chairs, and Jack orders those, and somebody else comes in and just needs 1 or 2 chairs, there might not be enough money left, and it's kind of unfair having one big pot of money. But that's just my opinion. I'll let Jack speak to that, because he has to take care of it.
And let me tell you the reason we did that. Jack was here when we made that decision. That was one of those early on decisions we made. What we were having, just like in any budget, we were getting down towards the end of the year, and if somebody had $1,000 left in their furniture budget, then they'd go buy something. And so, even though Jack didn't really, he didn't campaign for this job, I can tell you, but that's what we did, because it made them have to go through. But evidently, in the JP and the constables, that never got, because that's where we got into the problem. They had money in their budget, but wanted to spend it. Now, is that correct? Kind of.
That would make sense.
Well, back on what caused the whole thing, to be honest with you, is my employee marries a constable, and all of a sudden, anything the constable wants to order, she handles. And so while I'm gone, they order judge's chair, which we typically do not buy those folks. And so when I saw it's in the budget, when I pulled the budget, I saw where he budgeted for rifles, shotguns, and gun racks. So it goes back to the same principle. Whether you guys, whether you really care if they want to buy what they ask for and you approve, or they can buy what they want to buy. I think that's a court decision.
I believe on the furniture thing, maybe, if we get into this deal where we get a building facilitator, and the building person is under it, then we can just put the whole furniture budget under the building facilitator, and he can decide whether or not they need furniture or not.
Well, what you don't realize is that furniture is just one piece of that. That line item is furniture and equipment. So, 40,000-foot view, what's kind of strange to me, or funny to me, is that why would a department come to this court with a list of what they want and have a risk of you saying no, when they can just, when they're told, well, we'll just see how much money they have left later on, and then they come to me later on and don't go through you guys, and here's my wish list, and I'm the guy managing this money. And then we buy something, it goes to court, y'all won't see the bills, who authorized this? What's this for? So that's the kind of game we play. Why would they ask for anything in the budget? I think departments, I don't know anybody else around their budget like we do, to be honest with you. They have people responsible for their department. I should know that I need a chair. I should know I need a laptop.
So if they have a furniture budget, they should itemize what furniture they intend to buy.
Back in the day, everybody had a line of furniture and equipment. That's where it got kind of shady there, because, for instance, the constable, he budgeted for equipment, guns. That line item says furniture and equipment. So he was hanging his hat, and I'm still dealing with that issue there, but he was hanging his hat that that's furniture and equipment. So he had to build it by furniture or equipment. So it just.
And part of the problem is not Jack. That part of the problem is me. Because I had those budget documents, and I had it document what that money had been asked for. And I thought, if they come and presented that to this court, that I'm buying 2 shotguns, 2 rifles, this, and this, they needed to come to you and say, I didn't buy this, but can I buy this and get your permission?
Yeah, ask for it first. Say, can I line out and transfer this and move it, because I don't need it after all. But I'd like to have this.
And quite honestly, the other side of that thing is too, that what happens is these departments, the other departments out there that wanna be conservative, and I'll get about what I have. They, year after year after year, they don't ask for anything. But year after year after year, the same people hit this account that you want me to watch over, and every year it's one department ordering 10 chairs, one department doing this, it's over and over and over. The same people, they've never learned how to play the game. And so the people trying to be conservative, they don't get anything. But the other folks, I get calls all the time, well, in their money left in that pile of money, they know that. And so,
Well, I think that's the whole thing, you gotta figure out a way to
Well, yeah.
figure out in the budget itself and with purchasing that everybody gets under control in a sense, you know, not that they can't have what they need or what they want if we afford it. It's just whether or not you can't change your mind midstream and say, well, or ask for something that, you know, like you said, the constable, if you ask for ammunition and bullets, you're gonna say, okay, and then if he doesn't use them, then say, I don't really want those, I want something, I want a new TV. You know, or a judge's chair.
And if
You
you,
know,
if
that's-
you are two equipment line items in two different departments' budget, and you don't put it in the other department's budget, you're gonna have an issue.
Well, that's why I said, it comes back to a building facility, we get a building service, and he can start determining when people, in other words, if you need something, you tell him. And if we have it somewhere in a storeroom, or we have it that somebody else has gave up, got something new, we store up chairs, furniture, and desks.
and quite honestly, furniture, not that,
It's just not that big a deal, furniture.
yeah, there's not that much furniture ordered until one person finds out somebody else got something, or I want something, and it snowballs.
I want one just like you.
Exactly, but it's equipment too, like I said, there again, I'm given the task to decide who gets what.
Yeah. That's not really your job.
So I'm the guy that decides, where I buy it or what brand, but I'm also the guy that decides whether you even have it.
Makes you popular though.
It does, and I'll tell you right front, if we do this again, I'm gonna spend that money as quick as I can. You think I'm joking, but I'm not. I will spend it, I'll say, line up, it's October 1, what do you want?
Well, I'll tell you how we did it in the school districts, and it's different. We had a furniture and equipment, I think we just had a furniture item in the budget. And, in schools, it's a little easier to contain because, we had a campus, everybody had if a principal wanted something, or a teacher would go to the principal would go to me. And ultimately, I was one that decided, and I don't mind doing that again, until we can get a facilities person on board. Jack, if I remember, I think we discussed this at one time, back whenever you first took this over, but the reason we did it is because we were having people going out and spending down to the very last minute. When we were $1.6 million or whatever it was in the red, we didn't have the money to spend.
They had it in their budget.
Yeah, they had it in the budget, and that was the reason we did it.
That's great.
That's exactly right.
It was trying to rein in the spending. But
And I don't have any problem doing that again, okay, if y'all decide how y'all wanna do it. But I would suggest maybe we break it up to two line items, one for furniture and one for equipment. I don't care.
Yeah, we could do that, but I don't think we ought to, I noticed Judge Smith has got $1,000 in here for furniture. We're just opening the,
$1,000 check. 'Cause you
Well,
got-
I mean, he should have said, well, I need 2 chairs that cost $289 a
Yeah.
piece, not $1,000. I know he can't spend exactly
Or a
$1,000.
desk that costs $800 and one chair that costs
Yeah.
$100,
Well, I
or
mean-
whatever.
But
I mean,
in
that's not gonna happen.
his defense, he's one of the guys that's been conservative and not asked for anything.
Right.
True.
Well, no, I'm not,
And
you
so
know,
that's-
they need stuff, I've been in there, they need stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They-
And
they're in
Judge
bad
Morgan
shape.
too, she wanted, I think, 1,000 in hers for furniture.
Yeah, I'm sure they've got together and discussed that because of the problem. And I don't know about the constables, I hadn't looked at theirs that close yet. I wouldn't be a bit surprised we don't see that in theirs too, so.
And
Well,
maybe,
you're not gonna see it from twos, because I already went over here, and that's already not, and everything except that's the only one thing he did change was change his extra help, like everybody else had the same, I said, go with something different, that's it, leave it alone.
and maybe we put this on consent agenda, I don't know, but here's a copy of the invoice or PO or quote, let you guys see, but it's strange, you know, when you spend the money, we get asked the question, paying bills, what sense do authorizing this?
Yeah, I just think it'd be easier though if the department said, well, I need furniture from, not necessarily his office, but the elected guy or whatever, but the secretary and the people out there needed office in the whole, you know, they need to go to, be able to go to somewhere and say, hey, you know, all this is, break it down and is there some way you can come and fix it? They don't need to fix it out, we just need to fix it. You know, it's the end of the story.
Are we having that much furniture bought nowadays, or are we pretty well settled down?
I think it's slowed down. There again, I think, you know, quite honestly, moving up here, buying furniture, everybody sees it, that's just the way it is. Everybody, you know, has a need now, I understand that. I think it's slowed down, but the sheriff's office, they're gonna always order, you know, 10 or 12 chairs a year, you know, just by nature of how many people they have.
When you talk about chairs, you talk about like these kind of chairs?
I think like dispatch chairs and things
Yeah,
like
stuff like
that,
that.
that gets worn out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just a fan of knowing what people need prior to the year starting. That's just me.
But at some point, you probably gonna get big enough for, we probably need a little storeroom somewhere, it's got some chairs in it, some desks in it, I might need one. Well, you just change it out, maintenance, yeah.
Well, and I think probably, you know, I don't foresee judges' chairs on the.
No, but I meant,
But no, what I'm saying is, you know.
all the office chairs and all those,
If
be
we buy,
close to the
if
same.
we buy a standard chair, you know, that's pretty easy,
Right.
pretty easy to do.
I think, you know, if everybody's buying the same chair, it wouldn't matter, you know what I'm saying, it just wouldn't matter. If we had 50 of these sitting in the storeroom somewhere, and every time somebody needs one, you get one. Go get the old one, it's broke. Not a big deal.
Well, it is something we're gonna need to settle, but right now, I would think let's not put anything in anybody's business for furniture right now. Let's just leave that out.
If they need a piece of furniture, they can come to Jack, and if it gets out of sorts, we
Well,
do it through consent.
They come to their commissioner, and then he'll give it to them out of my road and bridge fund, buy them something if they need it that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, really will. I mean,
And
it's
then when
not
we
a
get
big
our
deal.
facilities person on board, which I hope we can do, you know, around the first budget year, that's something.
That's something we should probably post that.
Pretty quick, that's just what I was fixing to say, but Lori will need to get a job description and kind of get started on it.
I need to kind of know what angle y'all wanna go though.
Well, we gotta figure out what we really want him to do. I mean, because, you know, there's
We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Jack up
big title,
Jack, you wanna come up on your,
This
I will.
was pretty short, he said he didn't want anything, and that was it, that was the end of the story.
yeah,
Is there anything else we need to talk about?
that's pretty close.
I mean, that's what he said, I read it, he said, it's good,
Says, I said, you happy camper.
that's what he said. He said, he's taking a pay cut, and.
That's what it is. Road bridge. Hey, we'll take 40, 45, I'll probably do that.
It's next Tuesday.
Pretty good. Have you been down the road?
No. Now, ask me if I do a want to go in.
I was gonna say, there's one place where it makes a curve there, where the whole road is separated. You know, it's not a hole anymore, it's from one end to the next. It is, what are you gonna do, right, keep the whole thing.
That's when you wish you had flotation tires on your car, you just easily go.
Well, mine, you know, I'm not asking for anything, you know, if I'm doing unpopular thing, that's a position. I know we do what we do, we can't. Just some numbers I want to throw at you. I was estimating that the workload for PL is going to increase about 600%. The first year, when I was just me and one person, we were doing about 300 POs probably a year. Here we are just starting June, and we're at 1,401 POs. Requisitions were at 3,664 as of June. Back then, you know, my department was not over cell phones, credit cards, fuel man cards, and now the latest introduction is the state inspection. Total nightmare, and there's discussion about what we're gonna do with sheriff's office cars, they're doing those currently, themselves. And the way that works, basically, you know, the deal that you and I go down here and we get inspection and we get the paper, showing we got inspected here to get new tags. At the county, the problem is the tags are free, but they've gone to sprinkle about the inspection. So now, when I get the paperwork, you know, all these cards expiring at different times, and different departments bring it to us at different times, we gotta put them all together, go down there to the tax office, and they have to get on the computer and see what needs to be inspected, what falls, what category. Karen testified, that's been a nightmare. But that's pretty much it. From our end, it's just keep our head above water. Like I say, 2 people was hired for this job 10 years ago. We've got a third now, but that is because we took over inventory. So, we haven't had anybody. Lisa handles the day-to-day business. And, my deal is kind of get people almost got political. You know, I go back to my roots today where I had a boss, and I ran the department, and working agent, you know, filling calls all day long for people like yourself and other elected officials. There's no one run the office, basically. So that's kind of where I'm at. We'll do the best we can. But obviously, you know, the increase on what we do has been pretty large.
Well, and I think part of what contributed to that is the fact that we had a purchasing department for years, but you really weren't functioning as a purchasing department. We didn't have a purchasing policy, if I remember correctly. And we did.
Commissioner wouldn't work with him.
Right, and we had, POs were really not being, I mean, so we've kind of come, you know, full circle on that too, because you were hired a lot in 2005, and so, but it was kind of, you weren't really given the tools to work with, basically.
And don't get me wrong, I think we're keeping up. I don't see that, we're doing a lot we can like we need to be doing. There should be somebody that's riding bids all day long. You know, there's many things that we buy over and over that you sit on my specifications. And it's just, you know, no one really do that. We do the best we can, and we're gonna continue to do that. You're right, kind of started off and just see how this thing goes and just build up, and I think we've accomplished a lot, and there's a lot more to be done. Other than that, I'm not asking for anything in addition.
Just one employee, a new car, you already got it all, that's all, yeah. Vacation, race, in fact, next Tuesday, we're gonna roast it, tell them about that one employee.
I'm gonna tell the neighbors, they're gonna be thrilled bad.
Feel like if I told you, I check for crap tomorrow.
I don't go there.
Just when I turn light. Yeah. Read it more.
All right, anybody have any more questions or any more discussion on Jack? We've had a good long day today.
I'm gonna have one more thing before we go. Mr. Shane has a diamond mower, that's always been a piece of junk from day one, and the warranty's expired, the vendor won't take it back, the factory won't take it back. I think there's a standing offer of $25,000 trade-in toward a new diamond mower.
On a tractor.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that blade wheel?
Yeah, you'll go all that to the machine.
No, it's not the single saw blade, it's the regular mower like you have, boom mower.
On the boom mower?
It's not a mid mount, it's a rear mount.
I don't think they make a mower for a picture tractor anymore.
No.
So, only reason I bring that up here, our dilemma, it goes to auction, and it brings $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000, or if one of you guys has something that you foresee needing another mower, transfer it over, and if you're buying a $40,000 mower, you get $15,000. I'm just throwing it out.
Who's gonna give us the trade-in for that?
Well, Ken Lynch.
Oh, Ken?
Oh. You don't trade the tractor and the mower?
No.
Just the mower?
This mower, $25,000?
No, we just offered this up to you guys, y'all, but you bought a machine the other day.
He'll give us $25,000 credit toward purchasing a new mower.
We hadn't thought about going back for a mid-mount yet. I may have to do that.
You don't like the mid-mount?
Well, we wanted it so we could have that tractor used.
It's ties the tractor up, it's real pain to unhook it.
Yeah.
Get it out.
Yeah.
But it's
one
not working.
No, it never worked good from day one. They probably never got over 30 minutes worth of use out of it.
Really?
Really, that thing was the
That's
biggest.
the reason he's offering 25,000 to trade in or something, maybe.
Yeah, because, you know, the tractor's gonna cost you one that heavy to pull, it's
Yeah.
gonna be $70,000 or something.
Yeah.
And then the mower part's gonna be
I bought that
49
case
or 50,
that
something,
I bought. Now, I didn't do that case,
The only
I'd been better off.
hospital was like
Made
$2,000
that, didn't
worth.
see that.
Oh, I know, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's always fixed, man.
Oh, I know
The
that's
midway.
right, I learned a lesson.
I bought a whole
You gotta
new
go into the
inside for it, you know, cause it has the triple deal, that other one breaking, I said, well, you guys are messing up here. Don't y'all know they probably have a fix for that?
So what do we need, what do you need to?
Well, there's a couple of things, like basic loading on the website now.
No, I was just saying.
We ought to run this week, but do we put a minimum bid on that thing?
That's what, my next question is gonna be.
Yeah, I think put a reserve on it.
Yeah.
Put a
They
reserve,
stopped talking.
25 on it.
Unless anybody thinks they're gonna buy something from it. Oh, that's just on the whole new mower, right?
I wouldn't
Just hit
worry
that
about
button.
it.
No, I don't know.
You just go ahead and do what you need to do.
Well, he doesn't need it,
Right.
I just didn't wanna sell it, you know, I want everybody to know that it brings around $4,000 or $5,000. Not doctor's fault.
I don't think we're gonna do that, I think what we're gonna do is hold on to it, we can't get the minimum bid of 20 grand or something for it. Don't you?
Let's shoot
And then if somebody needs something between now and next year, we can trade it in on it.
I don't know how long the offer's gonna be from November.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't remember.
It'd probably be a pretty good time.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think
Yeah,
he'd
we
back
make
off
a-
of us.
Well, what else in a year anyway?
Yeah,
What we was gonna
yeah, I
do.
think he'd go a while.
We've had a year and a half, so I just wanna make sure everybody knows.
No, I'm just saying, you know, I think he'd give us, you know,
One
we
thing
can call
about
and
it,
ask him.
if we wait a year, put it on the auction, it's still gonna bring in less than what we
It
did
is,
this year.
I just didn't wanna let him get nothing for it if we get traded on something.
Oh, yeah, right.
You're gonna get more for trade-in if somebody needs to use
That's
trade
right,
in.
that's right.
I just
Yeah, if you don't think
I
they're
don't,
gonna
he
make
doesn't have
it.
anything I need right now.
Well, I'm good, I bought that new one with the mower, tractor and mower.
boy, he made a buy down there, bought that
Oh,
tractor and mower.
if the argument's bother you, it's trying to track the side more on it. Yeah.
And just think about the minimum bid, I guarantee you won't pay no, you might put 10 on there. You're looking at that.
That's why I said, we ought to just hold on to it for a trade in case somebody decides we need something from him, maybe we can make a deal with him.
I think our people get ready to go home.
But y'all go home.
They go home.
That's all.
Well, quit, you can turn it off.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Richard wants his money back sometime.
Yeah. All right, everybody, in the morning,
And just leave all that stuff here?
yeah, I think we can, Jack shouldn't be anybody.
I think Lori said she'd lock the door,
Okay.
she was gonna lock, so I can leave the tablet.
But
Yeah.
it's 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
Yes.
8 o'clock.
When tomorrow, is it?